Hi everyone, this is Norman Kochnick here for Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnick. I'm back again after a few days off, a well-earned little rest you might argue, but considering the fact that we've had several days in a row and we're about to go into another test match of the 5-test series, the 4th test at the Oval. I think it's called Kia Oval as well. I've actually got a Kia, so there you go. Kia, maybe they should advertise on my program. So the Kia Sportage actually. So Kia is the Oval, I should say. It's Surrey's home ground in central London. It's slightly to the, I think it's to the east of London, but it's in London. It's the home ground, as sort of Surrey. It is something of a rather special ground. It takes spin, so it's certainly going to be a great worthwhile. We've got Moeen Ali. He's just issued a press. Well, he's been a part of a press conference as Moeen Ali has now taken over the vice captaincy of Banstead Boys. Told it's South London. Okay, we'll get it right, South London. But New Zealand getting battered by Bangladesh. Very good. So the reality is, hi Buckle Dada, how are you? So the reality is that Moeen Ali has been given the vice captaincy of England in place of Josh Buttler, of course, and that's a great little situation there for quite an accolade there for Moeen Ali. It certainly cements him to be in the side, of course, as well. So we can take it for granted that Moeen Ali will be in the team. So that's one notable change. Josh Buttler will not be playing. Johnny Bairstow certainly will be. It's a matter of whether Ollie Pope or the likes of Dan Lawrence come into play. I don't think that Dan Lawrence will be the replacement by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I'd like to see Zach Crawley, but it won't be. But it'll be interesting to see what actually takes place with the batting line, whether they, in fact, maybe even include a bowler, as Moeen Ali was already there in the side, and Josh Buttler could well consider another bowler, which would be interesting. And it was interesting to see the conference is just undertaken. In fact, I'm about to post as we speak. Moeen Ali, so he's a newly appointed vice captain. Of course, there's been an addition to the Indian camp as well. They've had a bowler, as in their fast bowler, and he's never get his pronunciation proper, but it's it's pRASIDH kRISHNA has actually been added to the Indian squad ahead of the Oval Test. The question remains, will India rest one of their quick men in the 4th Test to manage workloads? And that may well be the reason why pRASIDH kRISHNA has come into the side. If that is the case, well, Ishant Sharma, I would imagine, would be replaced by Ravichandran Ashwin, but they may well replace Bumrah. They may well replace another. I don't think Suraj looked quite with it, so maybe Bumrah's being replaced. At least, maybe it's not this test match, maybe the 5th test match. So New Zealand thrashed by Bangladesh. We're getting comment there, and New Zealand thrashed bits and pieces. Well, Bangladesh has beaten Australia as well recently, quite handsomely. So I'm not exactly shocked. I shouldn't be shocked, really. I mean, it's quite a so newly appointed vice captain. Okay, so we've got India versus. So actually, mainly wanting to call this England versus India because obviously it's on England turf. So we're going a 4th test. We're going to run out of the room here. I might have to go. I might just put vice captain. Bear with me a second, guys. I'm just going to update this. I guess you can call him. Okay. All right, so that's what the situation is. So let's have a look at what we've got. I just saw Himanshu Chowdhury. Langer said all of the noise regarding team cultures when it's just because we are having rough time. Once we start winning, nothing else matters. Your thoughts? My thoughts, it's absolute rubbish. He's on the outer for more than just simply because they're not winning, but they're also the culture's not right, and people don't complain. I mean, they can look towards coach. I mean, we had Jimmy Maxwell on recently with David Graveney, and they did talk about that when the team is winning, you don't hear about the captain or the coach at all. When you're losing, all goes back to the coach. That's true, but I think Langer's days are numbered. I don't think we'll see him coach beyond. We won't see him coach beyond May next year when his contract comes up, but it may well be early in that. We'll just wait and see what will happen. They may not want to disturb the boat too much. When you have the word vice captain, what happens when you? Okay, well, let's just look at the Joe Root scenario with it. I just need to check something there, guys. Yeah, so it's been quite a dramatic set of relatively dramatic set of days in terms of Moeen Ali, of course, has received the. Let's have a look at. Yeah, there's definitely a hyphen there. So I'll just post this, guys, for us. So any questions? Throw me questions, guys. And where is my co-host? I can see we've got Reg Vernon, who's probably just scared to come on, is he? And Ramarani, why aren't you both on? This is New Zealand's joint lowest totaler, and T20 previous was also 60 against Sri Lanka in 2040. First wicket down for Bangladesh. What difference can Virat do against England seniors at Oval? Well, I think you'll see it improve. Boys. How many days quarantine protocol is there in Australia? Still 14. Still 14. So I'm going to update this, guys. Just give me 2 seconds. It's important to be able to. England versus India. I like it now. It's starting to prompt me. It's interesting how we've got supposed to be joined by some co-hosts. Where are you guys? That's harsh. That's harsh. It's harsh. Well, look, Australia's in a mess, and we've had something like 1,100 cases a day. They're expecting 3,000 or 4,000 in October. Could go as many as 10. They've got quite a mess going on in Australia at the moment. I think we're in a bit of a diabolical heap at the moment, quite frankly. So Moeen Ali. And of course, Virat. Interesting mistake made by some of the broadcasters on spelling of Kohli is quite evident, as a matter of fact, as well, which is interesting. So this is the 701st video, guys. If you don't know already. 465. 466 recorded, 336. Okay, let's go get this. Bear with me, guys. This is important. It always seems to come when I'm just on air. A little bit of an update, which I have to address before I come on air. You'll see it very shortly. And so, add to playlists. There we are. Off we go. Okay, we're now rolling. All right. So. Dark Ashwin, oh my God, what's this a mouthful? Ashwin, 4-0, number 21, oh my God, hibiscus. So do you feel India has been written off as this is the plan to put pressure on them as England fear Indian best performance now? I think that these 2 test matches now count more than any other. Munchie's joined me. How are you?
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone.
So hang on. Hello, Munchie. That is Marcus Lawrence has joined us from sunny England, I'm guessing. Are there 2 of you? Have you got a brother behind you? Or has Viv joined you? What's going on there?
Well, Viv's just joined me, yeah. Just looking for some different photographs in the background. And it was just, we were talking obviously about Mervyn before a little while ago, and where we're talking about people, cricketers we've bumped into being absolute gentlemen. And it was just a photograph. I think I mentioned it before that bumped into Viv Richards at Gatwick Airport, and he was just waiting for his bag. So there was no family around. Went over and just asked if I could shake the hand of one of the greatest batsmen in the world. He said, "Oh yeah, man, no worries." And he said, did he actually offered? Did you want a photograph? And so this is just after an 8-hour flight back from Antigua, but an absolute gentleman.
So there was no there's no fear in his eyes when you walked up to him. Maybe you were just some potential lunatic about to take action up there.
No. Yeah.
So Rahane not feeling well, hence he's not coming. We'll come tomorrow. So Rahane not feeling well. But,
I'm feeling better, mate. No.
So look, the reality is there's been a few changes. Well, at least to squads, not so much, not so much the actual run-ons, and we don't know at this stage. I'm going to put you this side. Why? Because at least I can see more of. I can see more of all your friends behind you. There we are. All right. Look, the Indian side have included another pace bowler, which implies that someone may be rested. That seems to be the word. Pacer pRASIDH kRISHNA has been joined. Now, am I wrong to am I thinking he's a left-hander? I'm not sure.
No, I'm not too sure about that particular bowler. I know Reg, if he was here, or aka Banstead boy. And Reg, if you notice now, I've added TFB to my my name banner there. So if you can figure out what that stands for, then I'll buy you a pint.
Well, you have to. Sorry. So you can't use abbreviations with explaining it to the host.
Well, Norman, it's your abbreviation. That's how you described me to Jim Maxwell.
tiny
fast bowler.
Tiny.
So it did make me laugh.
At least Jimmy Maxwell and David Gravely now know you by that term. So
there we go. I'll keep that moniker now. Obviously, sorry, as I said, if Reg was here, Richard was online, he could give you a better feel of the oval track, being a Surrey lad himself. But if you are going to play two spinners, the Oval is definitely one of them. Potentially also Old Trafford. I know Monty used to get a lot of wickets up there from the bounce. Not so much the turn, but being a tall bowler, he can get that ball looping, bouncing high, a bit like Nathan Lyon can sometimes do in Australia. Not so much the spin, but the bounce and get the bat pads, etc. So the Oval, definitely, I could see Ashwin coming in. And if Ashwin probably coming in for Ishant, because Ishant didn't really bowl well in the last game. Yeah. Plus, of course, if there is a niggle in one of the other bowlers, be it Bumrah, Siraj or Shami, then perhaps the other option is coming in. And I think this was always going to be the danger for both sides of having so many test matches in a short period of time, that for the fast bowlers, it's just criminal. If you think about, I know we keep going on about the good old days, but there used to be almost a 10-day gap between tests. And so the fast bowlers would get that rest. They just don't get that now. And then people are asking them to still trot up and bowl 85, 90 miles an hour all the time. And this is where we see the stress injuries. So
there is a chance that we've got to remember that Jadeja pulled up pretty sore in the previous match as well. So it's a possibility. There's a possibility that Ashwin might come in for Jadeja.
That's true.
They may have Ishant replaced by this young bowler that's been brought into the camp. We just don't know.
Now, losing Jadeja is massive, I consider, for India in the field alone. He is probably in the top 3 fielders in the world, if not the number 1 fielder, because he's just magnificent out there. I love watching him out there. And you can see it in the batsman's eyes. Jadeja's got the ball in the boundary. Other fielders, you may chance it and take one to the arm. You would never do that with Jadeja because it's a rocket arm. He's that quick to cover the ground. So if you lose him, then potentially you're losing a fielder and a half, if not 2 fielders, because he covers that amount of room. So that will be a big loss to India.
Well, he's not only a great fielder, as you've said. He's a wicket-taking fielder. That's the way of describing him. You can be a very good fielder and stop runs, but he's got the ability to actually take wickets with his fielding, which is almost like a bowler in a way.
I know. And there was a nice touch as well after the last test. I don't know if people were aware that Jadeja got the Indian team to sign his test shirt, and that was then presented to Michael Vaughan to raffle for charity. So hopefully they'll make a lot of money for that.
Oh, it's a magnificent gesture. There's no doubt about that at all. So Moeen Ali, of course, was announced as the vice captain of the England side, which is quite a feat for Moeen Ali. I don't think he's vice captain before, as far as I'm aware.
No, but he has captained in Birmingham, and I think the players respect him as well. He's a likable guy, goes out there, does his job, and I think obviously you can see that within the 100. People responded to him as a captain, and so therefore he's got that experience. You could also look at the other players and think, well, who else has got the experience? Now you could say Jimmy Anderson, but really, bowlers to me are not the best captains. I know there are examples, and I think Moeen Ali probably the better option. Yes, he's a bowler as well, but batsman bowler. So I think he's the better option to be the vice captain. Yeah.
Oh, so that's great. I mean, that means he's in the side, of course. So
yeah, definitely.
So again, we'll go through the side a bit more, being the preview, but clearly Hamid and Burns will continue. Malan will continue with 3.
Yes.
Will continue with 4.
Yeah.
Bairstow at 5.
Yeah.
At 6, now that Butler's not there,
Pope.
Will Ali become 6, or will there be a replacement for that, I think?
I would imagine Pope would come in. Once again, Surrey's his home ground, so Pope would probably come in for that, for him. Moeen would stay where he is. The interesting thing is then you're looking at the bowlers. Now, because of the early finish on the previous test, the bowlers had an extra day and 3/4 off, which they'll appreciate. Woakes has come into the squad. So do you say, okay, well, do you keep with the same bowling attack because they did so well? Or do you bring Woakes in because, he is a very good seamer in English conditions, but he's hardly played any cricket. That's my concern. He's got a couple of second 11 games and a T20. Is that really enough to prepare you for the rigours of Test cricket? I'm not sure. And similarly, people have been talking about Woakes coming in to replace Curran, and they are both capable all-rounders themselves. And of course, the Oval is Curran's home ground. But if the ball's not really seaming or really swinging for Curran, at least Woakes had a little bit extra pace as well. So I'll be interested to see how that works. I can still see Anderson, I can still see Robinson, and I can still see Overton playing. So I think it's really between Woakes and Curran in terms of that role. They are talking
so
also.
But Wood's not ready yet.
What I was about to say is, I would probably be more likely to keep Wood for Old Trafford, which is going to be a lot quicker and bouncier. And my other concern, which I spoke to you the last time, is going to be weather conditions. We're seeing it now. I think we've got some rain due this weekend. Coming into next week as well, which is the tail end of the tropical storm Henry. And the hurricane that's just gone through the States at the moment, Ida, is going to be then hitting the Gulf Stream in the next few days. So that could possibly hit and affect us for the Old Trafford test. So we always knew that test matches in September are going to be quite iffy, especially given our weather. We could have the term that we use as an Indian summer, so it's lovely and glorious weather, or it's going to be chucking down with rain, which is most likely.
So you should apply for a job, Munchie, as the BBC weatherman or weather person, that's the appropriate term, because you've got all the makings. I can just see you with a weather chart behind you and the glowing nature of the rings or the what do they call them, the isospheres or whatever.
Isobars,
isobars, ISO something. Has been, yeah.
Well, I'll get in and say it before Reg would say it, but probably the easiest way for me to do that would be to come onto the screen with a green shirt on anyway, and they project the map of the United Kingdom onto my chest. Because if I try and stood by the side of the camera, you won't be able to see the map of the United Kingdom.
Well, I wasn't going to be that facetious. But of course, we know that Reg Vernon, I should be quite smug. There's been a lot of talk from even Steve Harmison and a whole range of ex-England players that James Anderson may have his last test at Old Trafford. Have you heard that?
Yeah, I saw that on Cricket Info when I clicked on first thing this morning. I could understand that.
Reg Vernon, you said that it would not happen. They're talking about, and I didn't lead the discussion. They have been talking about him leaving on a high at the end of the series, which is what I predicted. If he continues on, it could be detrimental to his curve.
I know, but I'm sure he would like one more Ashes Down Under to try and get that a win.
So would have Shane Warne. So would have Morley would have won another series against Sri Lanka. But they decided to leave on top. And I think James Anderson is, albeit a brilliant bowler, deserving all the accolades he gets, may be seeing Trafford, because that's his home ground, is it not?
It is Old Trafford, yeah. He's got an end there. So you'll have him, Jimmy Anderson, bowling from the Jimmy Anderson end. Or, yeah, should be correctly called the Sir Jimmy Anderson end, yeah.
So if that's the case, wouldn't that be an appropriate end to his career?
It would be.
I
don't disagree. But you talk to the top end stars when they're talking about retirement, and they know, they'll wake up in the morning and it's suddenly, I just can't do this anymore. And in the previous interviews, Jimmy Anderson has said, no, I want to keep going. I want to keep going. Yeah, I feel fitter now than I have been. If you look at the bowling speeds he's producing, he's bowling quicker than he was a few years ago. And his each year he's getting better and better with the ball because he's learning. And even Ollie Robinson mentioned in the last test that Jimmy Anderson was teaching him about the grips for the wobble seam, etc. It's going to come down to how his body feels and how mentally Jimmy wants to go.
No, I've got no doubt.
I completely understand. If he wants to go at Old Trafford, great. But there's been no rumours about it. Obviously, some of the pros have mentioned it, so perhaps there has been discussions in the background. But it's going to be up to him what he wants to do.
I know. I've got no doubt. I've got no doubt that it is up to him. But I mean, Steve Harmison's a pretty good mate of his, apparently.
Oh, so yeah.
Why would he be suggesting that so openly if it's not the case?
Well, if it's the case, then I'm surprised Jimmy's not said it himself.
No, but he may not have. He may not. I don't know how to put it. He may not want to retire, but he may know that this is the time to retire. That's what I'm trying to. That's what I said all along.
If we look at it as reverse psychology as well, it could be another way for his mates and things to G him up, for Jimmy to prove, no, I'm not retiring yet. I'm not ready to retire yet, and then give it that little extra yard of pace to show people who's not ready to go yet. But let's see what happens.
Do you really think that's what? Do you think he needs that motivation? He's a very motivated guy.
Oh, he is, yeah. And I'm sure that the what happened at the Lord's Test is certainly giving him a lot of motivation to keep going. But certainly leaving at the end of an Indian series, which is to us up there with the Aussies. Now, if you think about the Ashes, the India series, the Ashes is there, but it's only slightly below it is the Indian series, because they are the top three teams apparently,
no doubt,
in the world in terms of certainly the participation and things like that. But I didn't want to denigrate either of them. But yeah, as an Englishman, the Ashes is always the ultimate for us, which is why I think Anderson would like to go to Australia. But of course, if he's thinking, 5 tests in Australia with all the COVID situation, the bubbles, etc., it may be that he has taken the decision and he will leave. But let's see what happens. If he does, he does. We'll definitely wait and see.
It's not a bad. It's by no means a bad thing. It's an honourable thing. As I said to you, he will be leaving on the absolute top, having probably won. Well, you would argue winning a series against India, perhaps, and bowling exceptionally well in the final match, getting 5 wickets, all those accolades that you would expect. It can be quite an impressive moment for him. That's all. And I don't want to. I'm not trying to disparage him at all, but I know that Richard was so just defiant that he wouldn't do it. But he may do it, and I have a lot more respect for him if he does than if he hangs on and doesn't play well in the Ashes or for whatever other series he then has to encounter. It's going to be a bit of a sad end for his career if that's the way. Anyway, I'm not worried. I think he's already surpassed his own expectations for sure.
Yeah, but can you imagine retiring in front of your own crowd in your home ground with your own end behind you? Yeah, I agree. It's a great way to go, providing you win the test, of course. But I can see the rationale behind it. Yeah.
I mean, look what Warne did. Warne took his 700th wicket, I think it was, and also finished the MCG. It was a great, and I don't think MCG was the final test either in that series that he went out on. It was a great moment. We really were able to celebrate him at his home. That was the perfect ending. Yeah, and I think it would be the perfect ending for not only for Jim Anderson, but also for Richard Vernon in his quest to make him go past Shane Warne.
Yeah, but at But at the time, Norman, Warney was having a lot of shoulder problems, wasn't he? This is obviously, we had the whole drug skate where he was taking the diuretics, etc., thinking because of just masking the painkillers that he was taking for his shoulder. And obviously just touching all wood around me. Jimmy's been very lucky with injuries, so it's really going to come down to how he drags his body up each time. But it's just conjecture. It is purely conjecture, and then it's probably best if we just then say, right, if it happens, then you have a retrospective on what Jimmy Anderson has done for bowling in England, swing bowling, seam bowling, etc. in Test cricket.
What I'm not wanting to happen is for a person to not go out with the pomp and circumstance of the final Test match. And there are some players. I think when Shane Warne went, Glenn McGrath went as well, and he didn't have a.
No.
Oh, sorry. He played in the Sydney Test where they also farewell both of them in the end. But Shane Warne was giving that farewell in Melbourne. All I'm trying to say is you don't want him to go out with a whimper. You don't want to go out without the fanfare. I prefer to go out with fanfare. That's all.
I don't get, you're not wrong, Norman, but sometimes it comes down to the players themselves. Do they want all the hustle and bustle? Now, if you take Alistair Cook, when he retired, we had the magnificent scene where the Indian team very magnanimously gave him the Guard of Honour as he came into bat. They probably regretted that 100 runs later, but it was still a grand gesture. And I'm sure if England were playing India and Kohli was retiring or Pujara, then these Test greats should get that Guard of Honour, and because it's due to them for their record. And Alistair Cook, he finished. Now he had that 100. Now he could have gone on, but he said, no, that was my last Test, and that was a great way to finish.
He could have played another 3 or 4 years, couldn't he, really?
He has, but he's got a young family, and where he lives in Essex, he's also got a farmer, and so he does a lot of farm work as well. And I think he enjoys playing the odd county game now, doing the commentary, as well as looking after the family. So that is very good. Yeah.
I'm looking at the stats here. The leading wicket takers of the series, in fact, Ollie Robinson's got the most with 16, Bournemouth 14, and Anderson 13. I actually thought Anderson would have had more than that, and then Root with 507, KL Rahul 252, and Rohit Sharma with 230. So they're the stats as they go. This pacer, pRASIDH kRISHNA, I've got a feeling if they're including him in the squad for the last 2 Test matches, there's an inkling that he's going to play.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a feeling that he will. There's also still ongoing discussions about Vihari. This is a part of my briefing for today. There were a few questions which are being asked about the debate over India's selection leading into the 4th Test, namely Vihari coming in place of Rahane, obviously Ashwin coming in, which could well be for Jadeja if he's injured, or at least Ishant Sharma. So I have a feeling Jadeja's not fit. I believe that there's something there because Ashwin could come in easily for Jadeja, and then they could afford to bring another pace bowler in for Ishant, couldn't they? Interesting. Also, the relationship of if Rahane were to not play and Vihari were to play, will they give the vice captaincy to Rohit Sharma or the likes of Pujara, or might even be Ashwin himself be made vice captain? So a lot of interesting developments going on here in this series. And of course, Josh Butler, Joe Root made it very, very clear that his Test career is not over. Despite the family situation, his Test career is not over. But I'm impressed with Bairstow. I love Bairstow. I still think he's the best keeper other than Ben Folkes. I think he is. I actually think Bairstow's a better keeper than Butler, to be honest with you. And I also, Bairstow's batting, having played 75 Tests or whatever it is certainly nothing to be sneezed at.
Oh no, it's a quality player, and it's a good backup in terms of what the teams have got. It's very interesting what's going to happen with the Indian makeup. People would have said before, after the first innings in Headingley, that Pujara was definitely to be scrapped, but he showed again once his quality. 91, he's got to be there again, and we said before he provides that stability. Rahane, unfortunately, is getting some low scores, but again, he's a quality batsman. The point being for India that if they are going to lose Jadeja, if they're going to lose Ishant, and they're changing a lot of the bowlers around, did you also then want to change a lot of the batting around as well? So you're almost coming in with a brand new team. Well, 50% is a brand new team. Would you want to do that?
Yeah, and it's interesting. Would you replace Jadeja with a batsman rather than a so-called all-rounder? Could they put in Vihari if Jadeja's injured? We're not hearing anything about Jadeja at this point, but he did go off the ground which is very unusual to go off the ground like he did. It hasn't been that long a turnaround between the matches, so there's every chance he could be out. I mean, Wood probably hasn't got himself together yet, as you said, but yeah, I mean, why again go back to England for a moment, as opposed to Pope? Couldn't they just bring Chris Wokes in and leave Sam Curran as well?
You could do, but then your tail starts at Moeen Ali, really. So I think England would prefer to have a batsman and bring Pope in, and that way, they may want to go down that route, but I think that would slightly weaken the batting lineup. Yeah.
Okay, I haven't picked up any hints from Joe Root as to whether Pope's coming in, but I think you're right. It won't be Dan Lawrence.
Yeah. Tim, so I'm just looking at the comments here. Some interesting comments. First comment about my background. The reason being I've got so much crap behind me, I have to have a virtual screen. So apologies if it's off-putting for people, but trust me, it's a lot easier to have it like this than see what's going on behind me. Tim, Butler's not playing in the Test, mate. He's resting now to have the family. So Burns, Hamid, Malan, Root, Bairstow, Moeen, Robinson. I think Leach is on Somerset duty, unless he can get called back.
I don't think so. There'll be no. I can't. I think Moeen Ali's inclusion is to be the central spinner. Really, what's this? Rahane asking. How many hours is the summer season in England? What does that mean? An actual playing time?
Well, I think if Bahram's asking how many hours of sunshine do we have, then it's a lot less than most of the world. I think Tim was actually saying it's roughly 6 till 6 at the moment, in terms of daylight hours, although there's actually no sunshine at the moment. Looking out there, it's all cloud. So we do tend to get later evenings in the summer. So, which is why sometimes when people talk about why do we finish play at 7 o'clock when it's still light until 8 o'clock, we should really be going on to get more overs in for Test cricket. But now we're coming into September. Now it'll be by the 21st, it'll be half and half.
Well, it is the first day of spring here in Australia, and we had the Sydney situation was we had 25 degrees Celsius today, albeit under the cloud of COVID. And we've now got a pathetic stat. 66% of people in New South Wales have had just the first jab. What is it now in England? What's the percentage?
Last time I saw the news, it was 88% had the first jab, 75% had both jabs.
And it's not a requirement to have the mask on or social distancing anymore, is that right?
It's not a requirement, but people are still encouraged to. I was out shopping over the weekend and still surprised by the number of people that walking around without the masks on. I think people are thinking by having the vaccination, then they're impervious to catching anything. And obviously they're now talking about another variant coming through. But we've got to live in that world at the moment. Yeah. Okay.
Which is September 11. CR7 returns to Old Trafford. Okay, so Ronaldo, not a very good day to return. 9/11. That's probably not a date that you want to be bringing up, but it's actually the 20th anniversary, isn't it? Jesus,
it
20
is,
years. Yeah. My God. Tim Wilton, Matt Davies. More chance of Coley no longer being Captain Anderson retiring. Whoa,
nice one, Tim.
Not as far as Steve Harmison is concerned. So rain's predicted tomorrow. So I'm not going to. There's one person's name I'm not going to be mentioning. This guy is something gay. I'm not going to. Okay.
So I had to explain my background there. So
that's right. Okay. So England I've just had an ECB newsroom announcement. England have announced the under-19 men's team, which David Gravity would have a lot to do with, by the way.
I think Nihar's actually came up with a good call. He's it's suggesting that Thacker in place of Ishant. That's not a bad call because it'll strengthen the bowling. Ishant really didn't give you much in the Headingley Test, and certainly strengthens batting. Once again, I know Lords was great in terms of the tail enders producing the runs, but you then saw it in the 2 innings in Headingley where 8, 9, 10, 11 went very quickly. Yeah, didn't really contribute much at all.
Is this Pujaras last season series? I shouldn't say. I don't think so.
No,
he's going to want to. No, he's not. It's not his last because he's got New Zealand straight after this series, after both the IPL and World Cup. There's the series against New Zealand at home, I think he'll be a part of that. So, yeah, I don't think so.
I think Vasant's made a cheeky comment, but accurate in terms of with the COVID issues and Anderson being in the bubble. He will probably want to retire at home, which is a perfectly valid comment, and then become Indians bowling coach. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. I suppose once he retires, it'll come down to who's going to pay him the most money. But certainly any country that takes him as a bowling coach is going to get a benefit, because even Robinson said during that test, with the gap between Lords and Headingley, Anderson was teaching him the popper wobble seam, etc. And you can see the impact that Robinson's had now. He's coming in, he's hitting that line and length. And a bit like Andy Caddick, it's quite a loose action as opposed to Anderson that's quite tight. But he's coming down from a great height, just short of a length, and getting the ball to do things. So hopefully there's a great future for Robinson there.
Oh, look, there's no doubt Robinson will be a lead bowler for them for some time to come. When is Virat's press conference? Well, we've had the one released about Moeen Ali, the vice captain. I don't believe there is any. I'm just going to have a look if there's any update. Normally, we don't get. They've got a really strong control over the BCCI media these days. We used to be able to get it and out and deliver it like we do the ECB press, but we're not doing that lately. Yeah,
Bhupendra, I completely agree. I'm not discounting India not bouncing back. Yeah, they're a strong unit. If you look at the 2 test matches that we've won by either side, Lords, England capitulated, Headingley, India capitulated. Yeah. These are 2 very, very strong sides that we've said that the bowling is significantly stronger than the batting. So on any one day, whoever's going to be slightly better than each other is going to do well. So, yeah, if India come back, Rohit gets 100, it wouldn't surprise me. He's showed his class. He's really calmed down his temperament when he's batting. When we were talking before the series, we picked him out as a batsman that likes to attack the ball, likes to go at it, and the likelihood he would keep nicking off to the slips. And he's really surprised me. He's really calmed down and tried to play that anchor role. But of course, the batsmen have been falling around him, so it's been very difficult.
There's a team there that Tim Wilton Davies has got Agarwal coming in with Rahul dropping down the order, and then Rahane out, and otherwise pretty much unchanged with only Ashwin coming in for Ishant Sharma. I don't know whether Agarwal's the first selection to be made. I think they're going to put someone new next to the Agarwal was meant to be there early in the year. That's true. That could be. Tim's not a bad side at all. I'm hearing though that Vihari is probably the one to get a Guernsey, but we'll wait and see.
Can I add something controversial, Norman? I was thinking about this this morning.
Sure.
Who in the Indian squad is the backup wicketkeeper? Well, is Pant really justifying his place in the team?
Well, Riddhiman Saha is in there as the backup keeper, but KL Rahul can also keep. And that would be okay. And look, I get your point. I don't think they're going to do it though, but I do think that there's a strong argument that he could well be dropped to get him a bit of a wake-up call because he hasn't played well all series. Certainly not as a batter, and his keeping hasn't been that great either. Riddhiman Saha is the pure keeping replacement, and he can even open the batting, but his form is not good enough batting-wise to keep him inside. So actually, KL Rahul, I tell you, could easily just turn around and keep.
Yep.
Whether that affects his batting in the long form, I don't know. But it's if that is the case, Rahul could drop down the order, and you could bring Agarwal in, and even keep Rahane or replace Vihari as well. Look, I just get the impression the way that Kohli has spoken, he's not going to do holus bolus changes. He says there's a lot of noise going on. I actually think he's not going to replace any of the batting order at all. I think he's just going to bring in Ashwin and perhaps Ashwin for Ishant, and that'll be it, as long as Jadeja's fit. I don't think he's going to change even Rahane, honestly, because he doesn't sound like he's got. They've lost the match, yes, but they're still 1-1.
Yeah, maybe it's still a long way to go. There's 2 tests. India are a good, strong unit. They proved it at Lords. If the conditions are going their way, what happens with the toss? But I think now we've come into September, the weather is going to be a factor, unfortunately. So we'll see what happens. But it's a very interesting technical question Abhishek was asking about leaving the ball outside the off stump. About can batsmen be trained to do that? It is a bit of training. It's also going to come down to how you feel in terms of your own ability and your confidence at the time. Are you reading the ball? Of course, if you've got a master bowler like Jimmy Anderson bowling, who's bowling the ball and swinging the ball very late, you can be playing down that line that starts off straight, and next thing you know, it's moved a little bit. So it's very difficult. That'll probably be a very good question to pose to Chris Vernon next time he's online, because Chris is a far better batsman than myself. I know, obviously, Monty and David Gray are ex-professionals, but they mainly were bowlers. But certainly for, well, I'd say better skilled batsmen than I was, then certainly that would be a question for them, because, Richard would tell you, I was quite happily flashing the blade all over the place, trying to smack the ball all over the place. So probably not the best person to talk technically regarding batting. There's
another announcement, the T20 World Cup latest news, which is obviously following after the IPL. Team India's squad for the T20 World Cup will be announced in a week after the 4th test. 15 members plus 3 reserve players, which seems to be the consistent thing. And there was a question of what is your side. It's an interesting question. I'm curious as to what's going to happen there. Look, to me, I just listening, and I guess we have to be very, aware of the press conferences that occur with Kohli, and he made it pretty clear and rather adamant that he was saying that that there's going to be no, a lot of outside noise about the batters, and he said that the likes of, Rahane and Pudara are still well liked and well considered and highly fancied. So I don't know.
But this was just one test. A few days before that, you absolutely creamed England at Lords with the same team. It just comes down, and there's always sometimes a knee-jerk reaction when you get a bad performance. We've got to change this, we've got to change that. I think the changes will come down to the influences related to injuries. We did speak beforehand that you could probably play the 2 spinners at the Oval. And so Ashwin could have come in, but obviously if Jadeja has a niggle, we'll have to wait and see. I
just don't know whether he won't want to miss out, because it'll be a kind of an edge that he's giving to his. I don't know whether we can ever say that Jadeja and Ashwin are in competition for each other's positions. I don't know whether we can be that dramatic with the comment, but it is interesting to see what happens. There'll be some rivalry there. There have to be. Oh,
there will be, and I think if you look at the technical skills, Ashwin is the better bowler, much better bowler. Sure. When it comes to batting, probably Jadeja just shades Ashwin, but when it comes to fielding, it's no contest. And so the other thing to consider, of course, is Jadeja being the left armour. You've then got the different angle coming in, whereas with Ashwin, it's right hand, all the bowling attack. So Jadeja gives you that slightly different angle coming in as well in terms of the ball spinning away. So perhaps that was another consideration for playing him.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of, I guess it is conjecture. We have to remember, we haven't heard anything concrete at all. But the inclusion of this new fast bowler, pRASIDH Singer, to me, does suggest there's something not right in the Indian bowling lineup, in terms of there may well be an injury cover, because there's no need for him to come in, because Umesh Yadav is there as a replacement already. So that just tells you that there's someone not 100%. It could well be Ishant Sharma himself. It could well be a Bumrah. I don't think it's Siraj. I'm just curious as to what's happened there. Clearly, there's someone's not well.
Yeah, and Siddharth, he's suggesting that Ashwin comes in for Jadeja and Shardul for Ishant. Yeah, perfectly acceptable changes. Although, I'd say the Oval is probably the one wicket where you could play the 2 spinners. So you may want to then just bring Ashwin in for Ishant and have the 2 spinners. So, sorry, Norman, that's my lunch break. So it's been a pleasure to spend a few more minutes with you.
No worries.
Some lovely comments. I think everyone's looking forward to tomorrow. I'm really fingers crossed the weather's going to play ball. But now hitting September, you never know what's going to go on. So we'll have to wait and see.
It is London. It is South London, or I said East London. I thought it was East London where the Oval is.
No, it's mid South London. Yeah.
Is it or more southeast?
It's not southeast. No, it's more.
Okay.
If you look at the centre of London, just go south of the river. It's about there. Yeah.
Right, as opposed to Lords, which is more
Northwestish. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Munchie. TFB.
Tiny fast bowler.
Fast bowler.
which Reg does love. No, that is
definitely
not going to stick. Yeah, I can see Reg doing a T-shirt for me. Yeah, right. Okay, then, guys. Okay, wish you everyone well, and speak to you soon. Take care.
Thanks, Munchie.
I'll get better.
Thanks, Munchie. It's good to have Munchie there. TFB, the tiny fast bowler, which I mistakenly said to Jim Maxwell and to David Grave the other day, and it was inadvertent. I regret it. I take it back. He's not just tiny; he's chubby. No, I didn't say that. All right, so near Trivedi, 36 all out at the Gabba, will make 28 all out to the series win. Let's hope. Ashwin is in for Isha and Vihari instead of Rahane. Yeah, we're not really sure what they're going to do with Rahane, and if they do not play him, if that is the case, which the more and more I think about it, I don't think that's going to change. Will they put Agarwal up front and Rahul down, or will they put Vihari straight in there? They've got a couple of choices there, both of them pretty good selections. But it does look like Jadeja is training and playing, so no other word. Wokes in for Sam Curran. Jay Shastiva says Wokes in for Sam Curran. I would say that Wokes is in. Whether he's replacing Curry or not, well, that's the question. Curran. Get well soon, Baram. I hope hope everything's fine. Sam Billing is in for Butler. That's another possibility. But I think the Bairstow's there. They're probably going to take advantage of Bairstow and put him in as keeper. I think Billings comes in the squad more as a backup rather than an actual keeper. I think you'll find that they're going to leave Bairstow right where he is and let him keep, because he's kept a number of games for his country. Virat needs advice of great batsmen like Sachin Ponting and just say well on his batting, perhaps. Ashos, I'd say Ashwin in for Jadeja will be the only change for India. Could well be that simple, especially if Jadeja is not 100%. That could well be the case. Be interesting to see whether they end up playing both of those bowlers. You'd have to think that they're going to do that. You'd have to think that. I would say there's a good chance they're going to do it. It's also another thing I needed to bring up is that Joe Root has actually been brought back into the #1 position in the ICC Test rankings. He's overtaken Kane Williamson, and he's at the English captain's at his pinnacle of the first time since December 2015. So he's #1 with Williamson 2, and Kohli's a bit further down, and that's a fair reflection on the situation now. Jadeja is fit to play tomorrow. Okay. I just don't know whether Umesh and Shardul lost their positioning. In fact, there's every opportunity that Shardul might come in as well. We'll wait and see. Yeah, Joe has been phenomenal. He's deserving of that position without a doubt. I've got a bit of a funny screen going on here. What's going on here? Computers have silly buggers. Mine's just gone all haywire. I don't know. All right, so yeah, the fact is that there's a lot of interest around Josh Butler's replacement. Wokes could replace Curran. Pope set to return. Bairstow will keep wicket as Butler attends baby's birth. So that's the word we're getting. Wokes is in for Curran, which we've mentioned here in the broadcast. Pope is set to return. That would be in the place of Josh Butler, and Bairstow will take the gloves in that place. So that's probably a fair comment. They've also questioned about 5 things that helped England to victory at Headingley. Obviously, Joe Root's perhaps on the rise of Ollie Robinson. Both of them would be significant inclusions to that situation. But yeah, Chris Hill would certainly, looks like a very good coach to me. He's well liked and he's doing a very good job. Rowan beat Virat in Test ranking. I didn't say that. What order would you put the Fab Four? Smith, #1? No, Steve Smith can't be #1. He hasn't played since January and didn't do that well either. So it has to be Root, Williamson, Kohli, Smith. At this point, Smith hasn't played. He can't even rate himself because he hasn't played. So you'd have to say, definitely, I would say Root, Williamson, Kohli, and then Smith, with Baba Azam somewhere in the middle there too as well. We can't forget him. BBCCI needs to send 10 to 12 young fast bowlers to England to train a swing bowler. Well, that's a fair point. Well, they've got Baram. They've got some very good so-called very good coaching clinics in India now, with Dennis Sully and Glenn McGrath having been there. Jeff Thompson's been there. Even our friend Alan Mullally might be getting a Guernsey at a northern. And I think they should be going to Pakistan, to be honest with you, not just England, because they've got some great bowling opportunities there, certainly, in terms of that's what I would say. The Fab Four bowling and Test cricket. Bowling, well, James Anderson certainly is up there. Pat Cummins is probably up there as well. Dale Steyn's no longer there. You might have to consider, well, Bumrah certainly would be. So you like, if Fab Four would be Bumrah, Cummins, Anderson would be the top three, and the fourth one, well, one you've got Bolt or Southey certainly there. Would have to be in there as well. I'd probably say Bolt would be in there. So Bolt, it's good to have each country, but Bolt in order would probably be James Anderson number one, Bumrah probably two, then I'd say Cummins at this stage. Cummins is usually first, but I'd say he's third. He hasn't played Test cricket in January, and then you go fourth with Bolt. That would be my form. Bumrah over Ishant, no doubt. Rabada certainly would be in that if he's. So Bumrah, Cummins, Anderson, Ashwin. Interesting. You'd have to include New Zealand bowlers. They did pretty well in the World Test Championship. So, but Ashwin certainly is up there too. I would agree with that. But in if conditions don't favour swing, but you'd have to. Yeah, that's true. But you can learn the art of swing bowling anywhere in the world. Really, it's just not only conditions; it's also the ball and the technique of bowling as well. So yeah, no, you're right. But England's a good place to do it. Yes. But Pakistan swing and reverse swing, they're not in England, are they? So it can't only be a domain of England that happens, because, as I've just said, it's well documented that Pakistan are right up there as well on their day. Neil Wagner, you'd have to say Bolt would be in front of him. Ishant's had a great career though. Why does the live chat show just three persons? There's so many here. It must be some error. What do you mean, Baran? I'm not sure what you mean. Three persons? What do you mean? We can have as many as you want. It's depending on the size of the screen. Your favourite non-Australian batsman and bowler of all time? Non-Australian batsman would have to be, again, Viv Richards by a country mile. Bowler? Oh, look, there's so many. I mean, who do we start? Where do we start? What era do you want to start in? But I mean, some of the West Indian pace bowlers, your Holdings, Andy Roberts, those sort of people would have to be right up there. James Anderson is now coming into shape as well. Top four Test bowl rankings are Cummins, Ashwin, Southey, Hazelwood, Anderson. That's the actual top Test bowl. Cummins number one, yes, and Ashwin two. I get that. Southey's up there. Hazelwood, Anderson. You'd argue, Bumrah should be up there as well. Bennett does it undone. He'll be the best Test bowler. I'm sure he will. I like those two. Actually, I think that's a good force. Absolutely. So I had some questions which I wanted to put forward to you, which I did ask in the thumbnail for this session, and I just wanted to bring that up again. Let's just have a look at that again. Where is it? There it is. Okay, there were some questions that I asked, and we may have already touched on them. Some 4 questions. Should India play an extra batter? So they include an Indian player as an extra batter, not take away a batsman. To play an extra batter, that means a bowler has to go. And if that were Jadeja due to injury, a Vihari or a Agarwal would be considered, absolutely. And then in the bowling department, Ashwin's coming in almost certainly, probably for Ishant Sharma, and Thakur may also come in as well. And he is an all-rounder and he can bat. Should India replace Rahane? I do not think that Kohli wants to do that, and I'm guessing that Shashi's in the same mindset. So yeah, the Demon game saying from the past 7 or 8 years, we haven't been able to witness any kind of thrilling rivalries like Sachin Warne or Ponting Shoaib Akhtar in Test cricket. Oh, James Anderson and Kohli, that's certainly a bit of rivalry there by a country mile. That's certainly something worth noting. Williamson would also be against the likes of Bumrah, certainly. Cummins, and he's bowling against a whole range of batsmen, including Kohli and a number of other batsmen as well. So against Root, yeah. Will India play Vihari and Mayank with Rahane? Again, they've got choices there. Agarwal was meant to be in that series from the very start. Maybe his first cab off the rank, so to speak. If he is, then he would open and Rahul would drop down, Rahane out. Otherwise, it'd be a direct swap for Vihari for Rahane. It's it's just interesting what they'll do there. They may not do anything at all, to be honest with you. I'm kind of thinking that's what Kohli wants to do. What in the world is going wrong with India's middle order currently? Yeah, it's just when they lose 1 or 2, they lose 3. And it is the Pujara, Kohli, Rahane group with Punt. And it is interesting, Munchie did mention the fact of replacing Punt. They need to consider Rahane before they consider Punt, I think. No, that's true. That's a fair point and a half. I would agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. The 5 bowlers haven't bowled badly. I mean, Bumrah, 9 wickets in the first Test match. Surya, 8 in the second. Somewhat lacking in the third, but Shami bowled well as well. And Ishant was the only one who was disappointing. Jadeja was pretty admirable, but yeah, Ashwin was missing. You think you'd argue? Interesting. So, okay, going back to the question. So, should India play extra batter? We've talked about that. Should India replace Rahane? We've talked about that with the likelihood if it were to happen, Rahul could drop down the order and Agarwal could open, or Vihari would be a direct swap. Jadeja could also be taken out for Ashwin, or Ashwin would go for Ishant Sharma, and Shardul Thakur is also there. So there's a few decisions, but it's interesting how this kRISHNA bowler, a bowler named kRISHNA, could also be considered. Should India bring in Ashwin? Well, that's almost a fait accompli now. It's 100%. He's pretty much going to be in there. What about the seamers? Well, Ishant Sharma is the one that's under question for sure. Whether they rotate others and bring KRISHNA is the other question. There are your questions. India don't have a strong bowling quartet. They have to play 5 bowlers. I don't agree. I think they've got a very good bowling quartet. When Ishant Sharma was on song, you'd think he would make that a very good quartet, but he hasn't bowled well in the last Test. A battle to what for 4th Test? Robertson versus Punt. That's certainly one. Top 5 all-rounders in Test cricket. Puran Sajeev mentions. Are they currently? Well, Stokes certainly is one. Jadeja certainly was. Ashwin, you would argue. Shekhar Al-Hussain is rated as the best, not necessarily a Test cricket alone. Jason Holder, if he's in the side, yeah, he would be up there as well. Pretty good. Who's the most reliable Indian batsman from the current lot? Reliable? Well, Rohit Sharma has proven to be, by far. Rahul pretty good in the first couple, but was not that good in the third. But Rohit Sharma's been the most consistent through all 3 Test matches. Hence, he's third on the list, just behind Rahul, but he's batted very well. Rahul's doing well as opener. Yeah, I don't think they're going to change it. I don't see bringing in demoting Rahul down to improving his batting. I kind of see your point. I do. Quick question with Ashwin included. Who do you prefer, Jadeja or Thakur? I still would be Jadeja, I would say. Thakur, if you're going to bring him in, which he was in the first Test, wasn't he? They had no Ashwin. In fact, Thakur. Ishant Sharma was not the first Test, was he? And Thakur was. The second Test, Thakur was supposedly injured, and Ishant came in. So Ashwin coming in on top of that means Ishant Sharma is definitely going to not be playing. It's a matter of whether another bowler is taken out, such as Jadeja, for the likes of Thakur. I don't know whether they'll bring in Thakur for Jadeja. I don't think so. But if he's injured, there's your answer. Immediately, if he's injured, there's your answer. Surely Root is a top 5 all-rounder. Tim Wilton-Davies, you've got to be kidding me. Come on. Root is an all-rounder? Come on. Good batsman to bowl. Very, very ordinary bowler. I wouldn't get too excited about his bowling at all. Now, we aren't meant to have other guests here. I've been on about an hour. Just on an hour. I would have normally expected some more guests to join me. I don't know whether Aparna was on earlier. I don't know what Aparna is. Shireen, a friend of mine. I'm just trying to see what the story is with whether we've got any messages here. I'm just trying to see what. I've got a couple of my friends there. I'm just not sure where a partner is. I'm going to try and see whether a partner's going to come on. We were going to get the presence of both David Graveney and I'm sure. I'll see what these are. You here? I'll just see. I'm just not sure whether Dave was there. A partner said she would come in as well. She hasn't been on the phone since 4:34. All right. Let's have a look at some of the questions. Everyone still doesn't know if Tucker would be able to bat on these English pitches. Most of the middle order have struggled. So just bring him in as an extra batter wouldn't save us. No, I kind of agree. I think you can't. I don't think he's going to come in. I think it's going to be Ashwin for Ishant Sharma. That may well be the only change. They should go with 4 fast bowlers, just like how Clive Lloyd wanted it. Maybe an extra Pujara kind batsman instead of Jadeja's. That would be Vihari, effectively. Okay. Root is rated in the top 15 as the 13th all-rounder. Well, that's a joke. I normally, Gurkrak Gill has been invited. Don't worry, he's been invited. He may not be available. Let's see where he is. I did start a bit earlier, guys, in all fairness. There is someone joining us now, too. David Graveney.
Hello, Norman.
How are you, David?
I'm fine. Apologies for my delay. I thought it was 1:30 rather than 12:30.
That's all right.
I looked at your invitation.
That's all right. We had Munchie on earlier and we had a good chat about a few things, but interesting selections that are going on with Mo and Ali now appointed as the vice captain.
Yeah, I did say too, actually, that I thought his captaincy during the 100-ball game was really good.
Although that is the 100-ball game, it's not Test cricket, mind you.
No, but I think he's quite a quiet bloke, and I think that I think it's just another thing for him to say. Actually, I feature. You know, sort of I've made. You know, I'm not going to be in and out. So no, I think it. Well, is it just for the Test match while Joss Butler's not there? But I would think he would respond, Norman, in a positive way.
Sorry. Well, welcome, Naresh. David's with us. David, what did you say? India will return with a positive way, did you say?
No, I'm just saying that Moeen will see it as a positive step for him.
Oh, certainly.
He captains a bit at Worcestershire as well. And he's got a good cricket brain. Well, he's a spinner, Norman. They all have good cricket brains. Now,
you're trying to encompass your captaincy as well. Is that what you're trying to say? Or?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, how many good spinners have been captain of their country? I'm trying to think back.
Well, Shane Warne would have
been
the best captain Australia could have ever had. So that would have been one.
Warner.
No, Shane Warne. Shane Warne,
yeah, wait, okay.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps, but he wasn't allowed to be.
No. But he had a fantastic cricket brain, man. So he's,
Anil Kumble led India.
Anil's also very bright.
Oops.
Yeah, and that's very strange. Norman, if you see today, all those Test cricket playing nations, all the captains are top order batsmen. Even Holder has given up captaincy for West Indies. So.
Well,
he has.
The Bangladesh captain, if he's not banned, then he would be the right guy, wouldn't he? The left arm spinner.
You're saying Shakibul Hasan?
Yeah, Shakib is a good captain.
Bear with me a moment, guys. I've had an emergency. 3 of my chocolates that I was about to eat during the session were too close to my computer and they're melting. So I have to put them in the fridge, otherwise I'll be in deep trouble. It's a major emergency. Chocolate's melting. I have that.
Naresh, how are you?
I'm doing good, David. Thank you. How about you? And how's the weather there?
Well, the weather is bizarre. It's just cloudy and actually it's not very warm. I had to switch to central heating on this morning. So that isn't going to cheer up the Indian fielders very much. So it's all falling in England's favour, I'm afraid, Naresh at present. So.
Yeah, the momentum has completely moved. The psychological advantage moved after the Headingley.
Yeah, but I would have to say England in any sport are not very good if they're the favourites. They're better off sort of being the underdogs to a degree. So, but it'd be interesting to see what India do in terms of team selection, and it'd be interesting to do what they do if they do win the toss, because I think they got their fingers burnt at Headingley of not reading the wicket properly. Not that I think it would have made a big difference, Naresh, because I think you get bowled out for 79, you're not going to win any game doing that. So
yeah, that's true. But David, something interesting about Headingley is the first two innings are normally low on score, and then there's more of runs happening. Though India didn't do well in first inning, England went on to get 400 plus. But historically, day 1 and 2 don't get that many runs compared to the other days. Whereas Oval is having about 350 average first inning and about 150 fourth inning. And this means Oval would turn later in as the test progresses.
They're trying not to make it spin, but inherently it is a spinning wicket if it does anything. Yeah. Whereas Headingley tends to do a bit to start with and become flatter, if anything, depending on the weather. That's why you make reference to those larger scores. Yeah. But it's a very odd-looking wicket, Naresh. It never has any grass on it. It's a bit like baked mud or whatever, and it's it's not emerald green. You'd say this is going to seem. It's a pretty grey-looking surface. Can be quite damp in terms of tacky. I think that's the word Joe Root used when he was looking at it.
But do you think that the pitch is going to really? I mean, obviously, the inclusion of Ashwin. I want to get David and Naresh your thoughts on Ashwin's inclusion.
Is he definitely playing?
Well, it looks like he is. It's almost the way that I'm judging by Virat Kohli's reaction on his press conferences. He said so far, he almost said that Ashwin's in, and he also defended his batting lineup to the point where he didn't give you any indication that he changes to the batting lineup, which is interesting. The only point of question is Jadeja was injured in that last match. He had to leave the field, and we've only had a few days between games, so there's every chance he may not be able to play. And the inclusion of this young fast bowler called pRASIDH kRISHNA into the squad must alert us to the fact that there must be a bowling rotation about to take place.
Who has come out of the squad, if anybody?
Nobody at this point. No, it's been only an inclusion of pRASIDH kRISHNA. So there may be a niggle going on that we're not aware of for that to be the case.
Well, England have suggested that they will rotate their bowlers. So it'd be quite interesting if they go down that route, because I'm not quite sure who they're going to rotate. So if it's based on the overs bowled, it would be either Robertson or Anderson. So,
well, does that mean that Mark Wood will come back in?
Yeah, they're like, certainly these two wickets would be wickets you use Mark Wood on, because their surface is hard, so there might be a bit more bounce, because that's as it happened, Headingley is probably not the best place for Mark Wood, because you've got to pitch the ball up a bit further than his probably natural length.
So, okay, the one inclusion that seems to, well, Moeen Ali's going to definitely be there. He's vice captain, so we know he's in the side. Chris Wokes, he said he played the seconds the other day. He's been included and will probably play. But will he replace Sam Curran, or will he be just added to the bowling lineup and someone else go? What's your thoughts, David?
Well, this is Sam Curran's home ground. That would be in his
Right.
favour. What was very odd in the second team match that Chris Wokes played in, he walked off the pitch having just scored 10 not out batting wise, which seemed a really odd thing to do. You know, he came in at 3, batted for a little bit, and then walked off. So I don't know whether he had to go and join the test team. You know, I wouldn't have thought so. So I don't know whether he's still feeling his injury. And people talk about rotation, Norman, but do they actually buy into it and actually do it with the bowlers that England have got at present? So,
well, I mean, if you include Chris Wokes, that's a form of rotation in itself that he comes in. You would argue that's a rotation. We are hearing, and I'm guessing, David, you would have heard the noise, I'll call it noise, from Steve Harmison about James Anderson picking Old Trafford to retire on in that game. Have you heard about that?
I haven't heard about that, but
well, it's been pretty well documented. All the Indian press are going with it, and it looks like Steve Harmison, it may have been another ex-player, I don't know who the other ex-player is offhand, but Harmison definitely murmured that, or said in fact, that it would be good to see Anderson leave on top and retire at Old Trafford. And he said it in a manner where he may have had some inkling.
Well, he might have done. He knows. I think they do like to retire on their home grounds. That's certainly the case.
Yeah.
That would be something. But yeah, coming
but
from
either now or next year, which next year's a long way away when it comes to anyone's
career. I just think it rather odd just before an Ashes series to do that.
Right. So you haven't heard anything, and nor would you. No. So
they're still the ECB are still reeling about the which would have hit your papers, the bonuses being paid to the executive board, and this is coming from one of the 65 who were made redundant. And it's been there in the balance sheet. It hasn't been hidden, but it was rather. It made me chuckle that the Guardian were the paper who revealed it, who are politically slightly left of centre. So you know they made a big thing about the executives getting paid $3 million, and some of the quotes were interesting, Norman. The implication, which I don't dispute, that everybody worked really, really hard. But everybody in the organisation worked hard. It's not just the executive board, you know. So
hang on. Is that £3 million collectively, not individually?
No. But it's not that many people, my Norman. So don't worry about it. I think they can buy some fish and chips with it anyway. So,
but who would? I mean, in Australia, there's not much transparency or accountability for Cricket Australia. There's no overriding group or ombudsman or anything of that nature which looks over and controls or looks at pay. With the ECB, who dictates such a payout?
That was established a couple of years ago. This is there's been a defence of it from the previous chairman. People get paid. People get bonuses in all walks of life, but
no, that's true. It's
just the slight of saying that everybody else, the people who were made redundant, didn't work as hard as anybody else. Well, I know that isn't the case. Certainly in my case, because
I think I read that article. It was more that way that you're losing people, jobs were lost, but then there was a bonus paid. It came across as that way.
Yeah. Naresh doesn't, and there's some MPs who fired off in all directions, saying that it's just an unacceptable scenario. So, but it's like, as they say, today's headlines is tomorrow's fish and chip paper, Naresh. That's what they use.
Absolutely.
That's the terminology they use in this country. So,
Naresh, from your perspective, any further discussion about Shastri and his coaching? There's a few comments on the side about Rahul Dravid yet again and that National Cricket Academy that he's applied for.
Yes. So, Norman, if you officially see, BCCI has come out with vacancies, obviously, to head the NCA. That's the National Cricket Academy, which Rahul Dravid has applied again. He has not
Is
applied
it,
for the head
Naresh,
coach.
is that the one at Bangalore?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought he was involved with that anyway.
It was involved, but they finished the term and they have to reapply or opt not to apply, or more applications come in. So he has reapplied for that. He has not applied for head coach. The vacancies have come out for the head coach of the Indian men's team, the bowling coach, the batting coach. Now, bowling coach for the first time has been divided into pace bowling coach and a spin coach. So instead of a 3 support team, there is a 4 support team come out.
So who are the current incumbents, Naresh, of that? Obviously, Ravi is the head coach.
Head coach Bharat Arun is bowling coach,
right?
Who's been he's been a fast bowler for India. So he's a bowling coach, and Vikram Rathod is the batting coach.
Right.
And a good one. So I think he's done a good job.
Yeah, he was an opener for India. He was a opening bat. Yeah.
Because that was the one thing that I noticed, having played against the under-19s, where Ravi was involved in that, but he had a series of coaches who worked under him, who, probably I'm being very disrespectful, appeared to be quite unknown coaches, or just finding their way. But they were all very, very good. Because that is the comment I would make about our system. It's not a criticism, but because the area that I work in, Naresh, is to do with all the academies of the 18 counties. So I would just like, because the under-19 players are drawn from that environment, this is what happens in rugby, for instance, in the UK, is that the England under-20s are organised and coached by people who worked in that environment in the clubs. So I've been a very good advocate of saying that the academy directors ought to be part of that as a reward, the very good ones, whereas it tends to be former test players coming down the pipeline, and a good player. It's a bit like a good player doesn't necessarily make a good captain, and a good player doesn't necessarily make a good coach. And sometimes dealing with people who are coming out of school or under 19s, you have to be careful how much information you give them, because if the coaches are talking to them like as if they're pros, well, actually you could have an information overload if you're not careful. And also they're involved in what we would say is a competitive period, so they're actually playing in a tournament. So you wouldn't try and massively tinker with the way that people play. You would like to teach them tactically how to play, but that would probably go as far as you would go. So is this these reappointments, Naresh? Is that timely, or is that it's not been accelerated at all? Or is this just a period of time that they've they come round for renewal, if that's the right expression?
Yeah, they're coming for renewal because Shastri's term was till end of the T20 World Cup. Rather, it's already into extension. And as per the new rule, you need to be 60 years or below. And I think Shastri turns 60 in next 8 to 9 months.
Right.
That's the reason he has opted not to apply for the position. And as you were saying, that is what Rahul Dravid's role in the National Academy is. He becomes like a supply chain, under 19, India A.
And does a fantastic job.
He's done very well, and also for the coaches, after the he supported the Sri Lanka tour for the other team that went for white ball. After return, he has done a workshop for the coaches also. So that is another area which has been given as a responsibility to him. And even the women team, which has just landed in Australia today, they had a 7-day session with him, at the NCA before departing for Australia.
I mentioned about Bangalore, Naresh, because that's the first time that I'd met him sort of when he was captain of India, and he was very keen to keep shoving it down my throat that India won that series, having I think they won 1-0, and he was very kind at Bangalore with our under 17s to just sit down with them and just talk cricket. You know, I said that you have to the younger lads. I said you have the privilege. And actually, tell you who was in that group. Norman, was Liam Livingstone.
Right.
So it's that era. Daniel Bell Drummond, Alex Davis. They're all guys who were quite close to playing. Saki Mahmood was in that as well. So I can remember him talking about the sacrifice.
Just say quickly about Daniel Bell Drummond. He's actually played for Randwick and done very well. How close is he to selection?
Have you ever seen him play, Norman?
Yes, I have. He's very, very exciting.
But he plays in a quite different way, Mike. He's not. He's got a technique of his own.
Well, that's true. But so he's not. Maybe you're saying he's more the short form of the game rather than
I would say the short form, really. But that might be a bit of a harsh criticism. Going back to the point I was making to Naresh, right. He talked to these young guys, and he talked about sort of the lessons he'd learnt as becoming an international player, about the level of sacrifice you have to make to reach the top. And he probably, again, slightly disrespectful, you wouldn't imagine Rao Dravid to tell a lot of jokes when you're talking to him. He's quite a serious guy.
Yeah.
But he was very funny because he was asked a question, I think by Daniel Bell Drummond actually, was how do you prepare yourself to bat at 3, given that you could be in the second ball or you could be in 5 hours time or something like that. And he said, well, I used to watch every ball until I started having to bat at 3 behind Sehwag, and I decided that was not the right thing to do. He said he was a nervous wreck waiting for him. So he just sat in the dressing room and he could tell by the cheering one way or other whether it was a wicket had fallen, because he said he was a brilliant player, but he was just made him a nervous wreck, which I can understand really. So
I mean, there are two schools of thought. You either watch every ball and get a gist of the pitch, how it's playing, fast or slow or bouncy or not, or there is those that you go in completely unannounced and fresh-minded, so you're not affected by what's going on.
Well, actually, there are some interesting techniques in this, Norman. Zahir Abbas, who played for Gloucestershire, and obviously a fantastic player. When I'm watching him, we're just having a county game, and he disappeared up onto the top of the pavilion roof. And I was wanting to say, well, Zed, what are you doing up here? He said, well, the 2 opening bowlers I've never seen before. So what I was trying to do is to watch what they do when they walk back to the end of their run, and in terms of which way they put the ball in the hand, in terms of which they're trying to bowl in swing and out swing. He said, when somebody does something abnormal, there'll be something that changes. So he just walked ball after ball after ball just to see if he could spot any difference. He would say that actually in somebody's action, Jeff Thompson would probably be the one bowler who would defy it. He said that when somebody bowls a bouncer, there's something changes physically. They either move slightly to one side to allow their arm to come through. So he was just trying to preempt the type of, or what should he be looking for in a brand new bowler, and that's just attention to detail doing that. So
absolutely. I mean, the James Anderson action, of course, and I think Trescott and a few other players have mentioned they can't pick him at all. His finger placement is so subtle that you really can't tell what's going on, and that's probably the art of James Anderson, really.
Well, one of the bowlers I think who will, when we get around to the T20, and I think will be, assuming he's fit, I know he has sufficient problem. Tymel Mills is a serious one-day bowler because he can bowl, he bowls 90 mph plus his normal ball, but he's now developed a slower ball which has the same arm speed.
Wow.
So, and if you're bowling at that speed, it's just virtually impossible. And when you say slower ball, it's like 60 miles an hour. So there are people trying to, who are getting themselves in interesting positions trying to play. So if he's fit, I think he will be the spearhead of the attack instead of Archer for England, sadly. But as an acquisition for the IPL, I'd be amazed if he doesn't play in that.
Does he bowl left arm, David?
Yeah, left arm seam. Yeah. Quite a thick set guy. fantastic story in terms of how he developed as a cricketer. He plays for Sussex at the moment, but he used to play for Essex. Family, sadly, parents are split up. So he was living with his mother and 2 sisters. And for him to go and practice at Essex, he lived in London. It meant he had to go on 2 buses, all sorts of transport. It took him about 2 hours to go to a net session. I know that's not very much in India, because I know people travel miles to go and practice. But things like taking on an extra job before he went to school just to help his mum out with some extra cash. He put himself through university to get a degree. He's just an outstanding young man.
Because I think he was part of the auction.
No, he's been involved. He has been involved in years gone by.
Yeah.
Well, he played in the 100, didn't he, as well?
Yeah.
He was in the
Played very
final.
well.
That's how I remember, because I saw the final. I didn't watch most of the 100, but final I saw. So he was there. He was playing the final.
No, it's good. So, and I didn't realise the IPL has been. It was a quiz question on a program we have, Naresh, called University Challenge, and I can't answer any questions on that. So it shows you how bright I am. But one of the questions was of the students, how long has the IPL been in existence? And I didn't realise how long it was. This is the 13th year, something 2008.
2008, right after the T20 World Cup. The first one was 2007, and then IPL came in 2008.
Yeah. So, and there's no problem about that being staged, is there? Being staged in Oman, and Oman seems to be a place that is promoting itself as far as cricket's concerned.
Yeah.
So,
Hugely.
Yeah.
They've got some 4 million people, 3 million are expats, and out of that 3 million, they're basically Indians, Sri Lankans, Pakistanis, and their cricket's gone through the roof. Dilip Mendes, the former Sri Lankan player,
yeah.
he's been the head of coaching there for quite a while, and they've built incredible stadiums and turf pitches and great bowling and batting training sessions have been created. He's improved their fitness. They've gone through the roof. They are a top 20 team.
Are they? They're very good, actually. The Sri Lankans, divine coach. Sorry, Naresh, carry on.
Yeah, no, what worked well for them is because of the IPL getting deferred the second half, and UAE, the ideal venue for going ahead with it, they wanted that gap of, I think, about 10 days before the World Cup starts. Otherwise, the pitches would be very tired and, overutilized. And that's why Oman jumped in that, why don't we host the qualifiers in Oman? And then you go back to UAE for the main round, So it's worked well for them.
And is COVID, is the number of cases quite low in Oman and the Middle East?
It's under control both in UAE and Oman, but unfortunately, what I have heard is the World Cup tickets currently won't be sold in India purely because of the concern of high numbers in India. So you won't see travelers from India for the World Cup, because India-Pakistan is a big game. But as of now, no ticket sales in India.
It's a big game. What time of year, whatever part of the world it is, it's just when the World Cup was on in 1999. They played at Old Trafford, and I have never heard a noise like it on both sides.
Yeah, I was there for the 2019. I was part of the volunteer group at Old Trafford for a month.
Oh, were you? Right.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah. So I started with the India-Pakistan game. That was the first game. So rather 2 days prior to the game itself, all the excitement around in the city center and all, having various ICC events. Yeah.
That's a fiery start for you, Naresh, to do that game. I would say about Dilip Mendes. Actually, they've done very well, because first guy I played against, this was years ago in the 80s, was Roy Dias, who batted for Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
He was one of their better players, and he went off and started coaching in Nepal, and in the end made Nepal young guys to be really good players. They actually beat India, I think, in the one tournament that really puts India on the map is the Asia Under-19 trophy that they have, where they compress it, where they play Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and it's a fantastic tournament, And
Well, you mean the Asia Cup, don't you? You mean the Asia Cup?
The Asia Cup, but they have an Under-19 version of it, which they compress into, quite a short period of time. But I think it's a really good thing for the young guys to play against their peers.
Yeah.
There was an England under-19 team announced just a short while ago. I've seen an ECB newsroom bulletin.
Yeah, that's my guys.
And what's the story? What's going on there? What was the announcement? Can you elaborate?
Well, we're playing the West Indies, starting on Saturday actually at Beckenham, which is one of Kent's grounds, which is near southeast London. So yeah, it'll be good.
Oh, you're obviously going, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just a question here that's been asked about educating our viewers on what the difference between a scramble seam and a wobble seam.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, the one thing is that if you're having a seam the conventional way, it's an upright seam. So
exactly.
I don't know. The rest is wobble seam and scramble seam. Is that the same thing that you hold it crossways and hold it that way?
Across, yeah, I think it's the same because then you're not holding on the seam. The seam is actually running, sideways to the fingers. Yeah, that's when you can see the ball wobbling when.
A scramble seam. A wobble seam almost implies an element of cut to the ball. I think that wobbles around. It's not scrambles. There is a difference. I'm pretty sure scramble is distinctly seam across whole over the seam.
Yeah.
That's scramble. Yeah. Wobble means you don't necessarily hold it like a.
So you slide your hand down either side of the ball. Is that what you're indicating?
Exactly. So
that I would have to say is that is a leg cutter, Norman. That's true. Courtney Walsh made his career of bowling leg cutters of that type of action.
Then actually you're releasing it sideways.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it comes out and it wobbles. It means it might go one way or the other, whereas the scramble's directly complete guesswork where it's going to land.
Naris, can I go back to your selection policy? Is that 60 years old? Has that always been in place?
No, it's recently come in. There was a structure required to be put in on various roles in the entire administration. So so this age limit of head coach has recently come in.
Fine. Well, I know that for instance in the UK they tried to have an age limit with umpires, which was challenged legally. Because people can't. It's very slightly sensitive to me, Naresh, because I'm above that age. So getting rid of somebody and saying that they're too old is actually is an illegal way to get rid of somebody, because you can't use ageism as a method of anything unless you're in a situation where you've made the rules 60 and above. So even if Ravi wanted to do it, he can't continue. Is that what this rule is saying?
Yeah. And all this happened actually the effect of, rather I would say a side effect of IPL. There were few things that were not going right. It went to court asked for transparency from BCCI. So all these structures had to be put in public domain. Rather, that is why all the vacancies are now available on the BCCI website. It has to be open and transparent, and then people apply through that. So, any of us can just go on the website and see what are the open vacancies, which were not happening. So it's actually a court directive that you put a structure and all these things in place. So age limit is part of that.
Do you think they would go overseas, Naresh, or not? In terms of an overseas coach?
I really wouldn't know. I think Ravi Shastri is looking back for his commentary. At least.
Oh no, we're talking about. I think his replacement, would it be a Duncan Fletcher or a Gary Kirsten or anybody like that? Or would it be an Indian?
It could be. It all depends. Yeah, because we have had overseas coaches. So I think it will be open. But yeah,
and overseas coaches who've had some success as well, haven't they?
Gary Kirsten had very good success. John Wright has done very well.
John Wright was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only controversy that was the only controversy. Greg Chappell era, and Saurav Ganguly is the head, so that but otherwise they've done well. Yeah. Gary Kirsten left on a high. India won the World Cup under him in 2011.
So I actually don't think they're going to go outside. I think they're going to go inside. There's going to be someone like a Sehwag or depending on what happens to Rahul Dravid, it could well be him.
See,
Or even
internal what's been heard is that Vikram Rathod may be elevated to the head coach, who's currently the batting coach. That is what's going on in the press, but we'll have to wait. I think only after the T20 World Cup this entire process will get completed. Selection process, yeah.
So does Virat have a big say on who's the coach?
No, but I don't think a say, but yeah, they do look at what kind of relationships he's been sharing, because even the 2017.
That's not a devious question. We're doing something in our club of trying to find a new head coach, a new performance director.
Yeah.
And I think the terminology that was said to me, it's sort of a big bucket question. The relationship between the two posts is critical for everything to work properly. So in an international team, I would say the captain and the coach have to be on the same page, really. So
yeah, because after 2017, how Anil Kumble exited, that was, it didn't go well, because it seemed, at least outside in the press, was that Virat Kohli and he had differences, and then Ravi Shastri and Kohli are getting along well. Vikram Rathod is already in the setup, so it's as you say, the relationship with the captain would definitely be considered, but I don't think the captain will have a say in who the coach is.
Right. So that question is why the English crowd is throwing bottle cork to the visit team players and abusing them. Well, if that has happened, that's regrettable. But Headingley is quite an aggressive place to play. So it's a little bit like being in front of is it Bay 13 at the MCG, Norman?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Same sort of place. So,
but I think this is actually
to be fair, now if the players could understand Hindu, they'd also find that quite intimidating as well. So.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, that was back at Lords where these corks were thrown specifically. I don't think it was something that related to Headingley, but either way, I don't think it was a deliberate attempt to throw them at the players, but they were on the field, which was a bit annoying, to say the least. But
yeah, because the Lords has this, the fact that they can take, one bottle of alcohol in, so they tend to choose champagne, because if you have a scrambled egg tie on, you're supposed to bring champagne in, so you can't, and it has to be expensive. So. But it's regrettable. Okay, nobody was offended, so.
I don't think it was as big a problem as it first seemed to be. I mean, Nihar Triveda said, "What about Virat versus Bubble?" Well, they're both batsmen, so they won't. We're looking more at a contest between bat and bowl, so that wouldn't be the case. Himanshu Chowdhury said, "Will England give the green top to India for making it even more difficult for fragile Indian batting lineup?" Please take my question. So the reality is that are we going to have a green top at the Oval? No, it'll be a solid wicket, but it'll be taking spin more than.
I think it'll be, the question is of what the wicket does. The weather has to be factored into it, so it looks as if it's going to be cloudy for the first 2 days and quite cool, and then the weather will be improving. There also is the question, though nobody ever admits to it publicly, that having sold all the tickets, which they would have done months and months ago for this Test match, because of particularly of the Indian population within London. It will be a popular Test match. They don't want to end up having given the money back. And sadly, both sides have displayed a bit of fragility around their batting. So they don't want it to be, you don't want to be on the third innings by the time you get to the middle of the second day. So I would imagine it to be, reasonably good wicket. I think what England will want is some pace and bounce, which actually the Indians will want as well, because their attack is not medium paced. So, but I think the spin element, and whatever the wicket is, whoever can get a decent score and use the scoreboard as a bit of pressure on the opposition will get themselves in. But that is obviously stating the obvious. But I understand. To answer the question, I don't think, and again, I can't find anybody to deny it one way or other. I don't think the England management can affect the preparation of the wicket.
No.
They might ask for something general, but I don't think they can go to the points that. And I stress, I don't have a problem about the wickets in India. That is home choice. I can remember going as a very young person to the ground that I played first class cricket at, Naresh, where that in April a truck arrived full of sand and put that all over the square, because the club that I played for had really good spinners, because they just wanted the wicket to spin. You could go somewhere else in Yorkshire, Derbyshire, and it would be the other way around. There'd be green wickets, but those were the features of the particular grounds, and I'm sure that's the same in India. You know, there'll be grounds in the south that spin, and Chandigarh is not a wicket that necessarily spins a lot. It just seems to fly through. So everybody has their features. These two pitches, though, if the wickets were going to spin, the Oval and Old Trafford are the two ones that would.
So both effectively. Okay, interesting.
Could do. But you'd have to get it the fifth day to make that happen.
And look, I would say if Ashwin's going to play, I'd say almost certainly, and Jadeja will probably play as well. I don't think they're going to use just one. I think they're going to bring both into play, because they actually bowl very well together, don't they? If the pitch suits
Together,
them,
yeah.
That's a very important.
Jadeja is more effective with Ashwin around, you know. Otherwise, he looks more like a stopgap who's just getting the over rate in place, you know. But Ashwin and Jadeja at both ends, Jadeja is more effective.
You know, spinners hunt in pairs, Naresh. So if you can apply pressure from both ends, and then work out which guy you want to be bowling at. You know, if you've got a shed load of left-handers, then Ashwin will want to. But actually, you know, left-handers to Jadeja is no fun, because he can bowl it into the rough. But I think it's the mental thing, Naresh, that actually the burden is shared by two, and it's not just the one person, which I used to have a huge hang-up when I played, because there used to be like 7 batsmen, 4 fast bowlers or whatever, and only the one spinner, which I thought was a little unfair. So.
Okay, Muncie's been having some fun with the fact that there'll be no there'll never be champagne at Headingley. It's too expensive for Yorkshiremen.
Definitely, that is definitely right.
So and then Tim Wilton Davies got a bit upset and said they started growing wine in Leeds.
Yeah, that's also true. But I think it's the question of giving it away, I think, is an issue.
Okay, so Oval is a good track to bat. India will bat well there, except for the spin. It is a good batting track, though.
Yeah. And historically, it's if you were a young person wanting to give yourself the best chance to score runs, the Chelmsford would be one because it's a small ground. Taunton would be another small ground. The other one, which is just naturally really good wickets, is the Oval. So they're right. You know, India will, and I think the crowd will play its part. But you know, you would say we would probably all say at 5 to 11, then the momentum is with England. But that can all change in an hour. You know, if England were batting and suddenly they found themselves 20 for 3, or it was the other way around, I think that they are. When you leave the pitch having won, you have the momentum, but there is a gap between that moment and the next match. So if you take the Indians at Adelaide, you couldn't get any lower than that. But by the time they got to the next fixture, they've talked amongst it themselves, faced up to where they went wrong, how are we going to make it better? And, you know, I don't think it's such a momentum swing, because it's just a new game.
Okay. There's a Shah Manju. We talked about the rumor about Anderson retiring already early on, and David doesn't think so, and nor does Naresh and I. We both don't think so, but Steve Harmison does. So whether he's got any knowledge more than others, I don't know. What do you know about pRASIDH kRISHNA, Naresh?
Yeah, so I agree what Pawan has mentioned. It's a tactical. He also hits the deck hard, and as David mentioned, there could be bounce. I think that's the reason, at least, he's been brought into the equation, because he made his debut with white ball when England was here. You know, he played the ODIs, so he does do well when there's bounce to offer. And a little bit. Obviously, he has played a lot, or rather, getting coached with Glenn McGrath. So you see that kind of action also. So, but I'm not sure whether he'll make it to the 11. Even Umesh Yadav is there. He's also tall and strong to hit the deck. But
So why
maybe
was he
they're
included?
looking
Why was he included? He must have been included for a reason. You wouldn't include a
reason, yeah.
man as an extra bowler at this late stage unless there's a player not 100%.
Somebody's injured, so
Yeah.
there must be
Ishant,
some reason.
yeah, and Ishant, I found in the second inning he didn't look 100%, and as it is the way the test went for him, I think he would not play. But is it that they're looking
that Ishant
also
Sharma?
to replace him? Yeah,
Yeah.
Ishant Sharma.
Yeah, he looked a bit rusty, I would have to say. So
we've got a fair bit of discussion about. There's a couple of people that are talking about America and the leagues that we've talked about before. It is interesting. I'm excited by the fact that there may be a rival IPL, or there may be a lot of the Indian players going there to play in America. We've had what was the name? The guy that went recently, he was very well known. Naresh, the player that went across.
Unmukt
Yes,
Chand.
he's gone
Yeah.
across.
Well,
I think there will be a next.
Pima, that my father emigrated to America when he was about 50, so he lived there for about 40 years, and it's a bit of a hard sell in America to Americans, because baseball is the America's game. However, there are a lot of Cricinfo originated in New York as a result of created by Indians. Liam Plunkett, for instance, has just announced his retirement from English cricket to go to America to play there. So, and certainly I investigated. I knew somebody who worked in Disney World and wanted to talk about trying to play cricket. The Yankees training ground, such as this is the size of the sport, is based in Florida because the weather will be a little bit easier. But the ground itself is 25,000 in terms of attendance. That is just a training ground. So,
Wow.
So they were quite keen to use it in terms of finding other sports to do it. It's just trying to adapt the shape of a baseball ground to be suitable to play cricket. I think was quite a challenge for them.
Yeah.
But there are ready-made grounds in New York, in the New York region, and Philadelphia. I think even Munchie talked about where there's actual English-style grounds.
No. MCC have taken tours all around the world, and they've actually, to be fair to them, have done a really good job trying to develop the grounds in really small countries in Africa. But they have gone to America, and Philadelphia, right, is the place. And it goes back to the War of Independence, that actually there was quite a big British colony in Philadelphia, and the grounds are lovely, white picket fences, a lot.
I mean, there's grounds in Texas, there's grounds in Florida, in California, obviously New York region, in Washington DC, and Washington on the West Coast. There's a lot of locations where cricket is starting to take a moderate hold. By no means a great hold, but still, they've
just had a bit of trouble trying to run it, I think, Norman.
Yeah.
I think just looking at some comments from the ICC over a period of time, America tends to be out of the ICC, in the ICC. It's around, I think, their constitution of how they elect the people who are actually going to run it. So.
Yeah, they're touring. I think they're having some games against Nepal and all next week. James Pement, right? You said he's the head coach now.
Sorry?
James Pement.
Right.
Not sure where he's from. Yeah. Another thing is, with Olympics, that's one thing about Americans. They would take anything in Olympics very seriously. So they're preparing for that. And I think they may have a tour of Oman also. I'm not sure. There's a Mumbai, the Ranji team is in Oman. They are playing cricket against Oman. India is announcing 2 under-19 teams, one against Bangladesh, one against Sri Lanka. So there's a lot of focus on this development happening around.
They're very good. India could select 4 under-19 teams, Naresh, and still compete against the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
Rao was
Zealand-
explaining to me the number of players that they have to, and the number of selectors they need to be able to watch all the players. So
incredible.
And that comment about Bangladesh, it'd be interesting to see.
New Zealand were all out for 60, and Bangladesh were 3 for 62. They passed their score.
And Bangladesh have got some fantastic cricketers. They won the under-19 World Cup the last time round. I would be very just interested to see what wickets they're playing on, because I have a feeling that actually they might be opening with spinners.
Yeah, they are opening with, and Shakib actually made a comment after the Australia series that he would like to have little better batting tracks, because UAE in the World Cup, though it will be spin would play a role, but not as extreme as what they're currently playing in Bangladesh. So he wants wickets to be a little more neutral, so that even the batters get an opportunity. They want to have a good competition between batters.
Yeah, you don't want to play 60 against that sort of figure for a T20.
T20, yeah.
If you just look at the New Zealand bowling attack, I'll just read out: Ajaz Patel, Cole McConaughey, Rachin Ravindra, Jacob Duffy, Doug Bracewell's the only one that I really know, Blair Tickner. Not exactly a renowned New Zealand bowling attack by any means. And is
that Duffy? Is he related to the other Duffy that used to play? Was there a Duffy open the bowling? I know a few years ago.
Yeah, no, I don't think it is. I'm not sure. He's 27 years of age. He's not exactly that young. Played at Otago. I can't see what his story is, but look, the New Zealand batting side was Blundell, Will Young, Grant over Tom Latham. There was no Williamson on the side, Henry Nichols. Doug Bracewell's back. Look, it is the pitch. The pitch is a bit of a shocker. Very much spin friendly. Australia couldn't handle it as well. The way that Dan Christian talked about it, he said it was nothing like they've ever seen before. So it's proving to be consistent with New Zealand also faltering. But I tell you what, Bangladesh, that's regardless of where it's been played, they're knocking off Australia and New Zealand.
They will gain. They'll gain a lot of confidence of beating whatever the team is. So.
And Norman, Bangladesh bowling attack opened with Mehdi Hassan, who's a right arm off break, Nasoom Ahmed left arm orthodox, Shakibul Hasan left arm. So they bowled all spinners.
First under-19 World Cup I went to in Sri Lanka, Naresh. The game was against Bangladesh. They've had 5 seamers, 5 spinners. We never saw a seam bowler at any stage, and they were all different.
Okay, what about the views on Surya Kumar Yadav, who's obviously, I never really worked it out. I always wonder where they came up with Sky, but it's Surya is the S, Kumar is the K, and Yadav is the Y.
Yadav is the Y, yeah.
Okay.
So Norman, he is my personal favorite, so I'll be influenced to see him play in the test.
Who is that? Who is that?
Surya Kumar Yadav. Yeah, he plays for Mumbai Indians, and I follow Mumbai Indians right from inception of IPL. He's done very well, but he's about 29-30 now to make a test debut.
He's not the opening bowler, though, is he? He's not the opening.
No, he's a batter. No, you're thinking of Bhuvi Kumar. You're thinking of Bhuvi Kumar.
No. Is there a Yadav that opens the bowling? Who was the quickest?
Umesh Yadav.
Yeah,
Umesh Yadav. Yeah. No. So he could be a good replacement for Rahane at number 5, Surya Kumar. But
hang on a minute. Before you say that though, he's predominantly a T20 and even an ODI player. His test credentials, albeit he's a good player, can't jump in for ahead of Agarwal and Vihari, can they?
Norman, he's played a lot of red ball, and that's what he's so late into the international scene. He's been very consistent in Ranji Trophy with red ball. Off late, yes, because there has not been much domestic cricket with red ball. It's all what we see is white ball performance, especially IPL. But he's done very well at all levels. It's very unfortunate he's come so late in the equation for the Indian side. Rather, 2019 World Cup number 4 debate, he should have been there.
Naresh, there's a huge debate going on about the various tournaments they're playing in the UK to have some red ball cricket, because one person was saying an opening bowler of one of the counties. It's 55 days since the last time he bowled with a red ball. And that's ridiculous. You know, that's nearly 2 months out of a season that only goes on for 5 months. So, but anyway, so Norman, I've got to go and do some work. So,
all right, thank you, David, as always.
Great to speak to you again, and no doubt we
thanks,
will speak during the next week, Norman.
For sure, absolutely, David. You'll be always involved whenever you wish to be. You're involved.
No, that's very kind. Thank you. Naresh, take care.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much.
Yeah, cheers, Norman.
See you, David. Isn't it amazing? David loves coming on. That's really impressive. Just on Sky, if you were to put him in, what's his position in the batting order?
See, he has white ball. He's been batting number 3, and even in T20, if you see, Virat Kohli moved himself up, or rather at number 4 to fit in Sky at 3. But I think in Test cricket, at this point of time, if we have to look at this tour, he could be a replacement at 5 for Rahane. I don't think Pujara has been dropped or moved out in this series at least. But Sky can come in at 5.
But so with Agarwal and Vihari there from the inception, and Sky brought in as an extra with Prithvi Shaw, I don't think that he would jump those two. I think if they're going to give someone a go, they have to give Agarwal and Vihari the first choice.
No, Agarwal, actually, if you see, Mayank Agarwal is an opener. He's always opened. The only time he batted at 5 was at Gaba in Australia, purely because no one was left. He was injured. Everyone else was injured. So, but yeah, Vihari. But then, if you compare all the 3, rather Vihari and Sky, I would keep Mayank out for middle order. Sky would score runs. If he sets in, he'll be keeping the scoreboard moving.
But I mean, again, coming right back to the reality of this, Virat Kohli has given no indication of Rahane, or more importantly, Pujara, being dropped.
Yeah,
even though we could argue that they lost, they may need to change. I'm doubting it. I really am. I think Ashwin's the only one to come in, and it's a matter of, and it probably will be for Ishant Sharma. And that probably will be it. I think that will be the only change, to be honest. Ironically, England are making more changes with Butler being out because of his wife giving birth. Then you've got potential of a bowler changing as well, with Wood coming back in perhaps. It's interesting with Ollie Pope coming into play. England, again, having won, you wouldn't think they'd be making any changes, but the Butler situation has necessitated a change, hasn't it?
And they've called in Sam Billings also, because I think even Sam Billings is a keeper, but nowadays
he's brought in as a replacement, as a cover, not the main player.
As a cover, because Norman, nowadays in the squad you need to also look at covers for concussion. So you need those options in place. So Sam Billings probably is the cover for that. Besto will keep, but
So with Munchie made a comment about Rishabh Pant. Again, he won't be dropped. I'm pretty sure, even though his form hasn't been great, he won't be dropped, because their first choice for Punt would have to be Rahul now. He would have to keep ahead of Redham Saha. I think Redham Saha, even though he's still on the squad, is on his way out. This must be his last series, surely.
Yeah, and actually that's a very interesting point on, if KL Rahul keeps, you open up another batter coming in. You can look at you can look at Sky and Vihari both coming in. But I don't think that's going to happen. Pant will play this series, but if he doesn't get any runs, maybe next series at home against New Zealand, it may be a doubtful one for him.
What a fall from a man who was the so-called, person who won the series in Australia to being not in the side at all. It's quite a shock in a way. But I don't know he's got to get his act together a bit.
Norman, the only positive for KL and Pant going into this is that the last time they played at Oval, both got big hundreds, So they need to just get that in place. Though India lost the test, but both of them really did very well for themselves individually, because Rahul was struggling and he went in at number 5. So that is the only positive for them going into Oval. And Pant needs to just curb those instincts. I don't think even in white ball he will step out on second delivery. So he shouldn't be doing that.
I don't know what's going on there. There's something not mentally right with Punt. I think, something. I'm sad because I wanted him to see him do well here. He just, again, when he plays the ball outside off, he fends away. He doesn't play a full-blooded shot. The balls which he could have hit, he's just dabbed at, which is unusual for him. Very unusual. Meaning that he's gone out the first couple of balls, played it, missed, then curved himself, and then played a half shot, which is a rather strange development by any person. Yeah. All right. So your Sky, you want him in. I can see that. It's pretty obvious to you want Sky.
Yes, Roman.
But I don't think they're going to change.
But I don't think that's happening. Yeah.
You've got to hear Virat Kohli talk. He said a lot of noise around the players. He didn't think there's anything wrong with Pujara and Rahane. He's pretty adamant about it. So he'll defend him to the cows go home. Himanshu Chaudhary reckons I'm too harsh on Wade. I think he forgot to score 270s in England. Yeah, but Matthew Wade's been in horrible form for a while now. He's gone. From a test perspective, he's gone for sure. He's still floating around the short form, the T20, but he's gone. They need to move on. Josh Inglis has got to come in for sure. England should have played a 2-match series, not a 4-match. No, that was good. I'm very impressed. I want more 5-test series to go on. I would love South Africa and Sri Lanka to play 5 tests, or Pakistan. I want all tournaments to be 5. I think it'd be great to see. I mean, Australia's played Pakistan. I think there was one we played in the UAE. I think it was 4, if I'm not wrong. That's magnificent to watch. You really do see. It gives it every chance to all the players to shine at some stage, doesn't it? Really. I mean, we haven't seen the best of Punt, but he might come home in the last match.
Yeah. 2-match. Actually, you know what the comment is? 2-match series. Actually, the visiting team is taking those 2 games to settle down. Probably you will see more effect when you play longer series. But unfortunately, India didn't do well in the third one. The first 2, actually, if you see, India were very impressive.
I think this is a great point. How will they learn without actually playing first? I'd love to see all test teams play 5-test series at least once in the calendar year. Wherever that is, I don't know, but each team needs to have that opportunity because to me it's a real test of their test players, and they get a lot of test cricket in them as well.
And that's so unfortunate. New Zealand is touring India for only 2 tests. They are the defending champions of the Test Championship. They should be playing more against the counterpart who were the finalists with them. They can't play only 2 test series.
I don't get it. When they go to South Africa, how many tests they're playing in South Africa? 3.
India is playing 3 against South Africa. Yeah.
Well, that's why. There's your answer. 2 against New Zealand, 3 against South Africa. That's their 5 tests over the summer, effectively. Like Australia's got 6 tests actually, but that must be something to do with it. I mean, I like the fact that they play 2 test matches at Lords in a summer. I love to see 2 test matches at the SCG in a summer. That'll be fantastic. The way it's going, we may not even see 1, which is really sad. Suman Awasi has just mentioned Indian athletes are doing really great in the Paralympics. I've seen some of the results. India's done very well.
Yeah. I think they already crossed 10 plus medals. India has crossed 10 plus medals. Yeah. Doing very well.
Who wants to see such poor quality cricket by visiting sides provide matches? No, you've got to give them the opportunity to grow. And if they have the opportunity to play, then they can grow. It shouldn't be just the domain of England, Australia, and England, Australia, and India. Really, that's all they're playing. Can Rahul do long keep? Of course he can. He's a keeper, or at least proven to be, at least.
Yeah, but that's a valid one. It could be a concern. Can he really keep for a couple of days together? He's done it in white ball. Yeah, and bat as an opener. Yeah. So that's a question mark. Yeah.
Well,
and that's what India. I don't think India would want to move the batting order, bringing Rahul at 5 and get Mayank back at opener. And then Rahul can keep.
Yeah, I can only see any hope of an Indian batting lineup change in the 5th test match if England win the 4th test handsomely and again Rahane gets a low score, they may then be forced to do something. But yeah, that's Pujara's in for the series now. He's 91, whatever he got.
Yeah.
Has kept him there. Really?
Yeah, Pujara. Yeah, he's there, number 3. Yeah. But he has to play with the same mindset. He looked quite positive when he came out. Yes, he got those deliveries on the leg, but that's fine. You need to still, put them off, and he did that very well towards mid wicket. So.
Oh, I think Pujara is extremely important to them. I just hope that they realise how important he is and give him a bit of space. I mean, he hasn't scored 100, but geez, it's a real pity that both he and Kohli didn't score 150 the night before and got through that shackle. Mm-hmm. The fact that they finished at 91 and 45 meant there was pressure on them to get those scores the next day, and it proved the undoing of them, really, which is rather unfortunate, for sure. All right. All racism is abhorrent. We can't change the past, but we can improve the future. Good point, Munchie. Mate, it's funny how Munchie's not able to come live, but he's able to text Manly. He doesn't. I'm not sure exactly whether he's doing any real work there. As we call the tiny fast bowler. Was it fast bowler, TFP? Oh. Yeah, that's punting Rahane out of 20. That's not good. India's been probably won't change until they next Ranji season, January 2020. Yeah, expect India to select from there going forward. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Multitasking, Norman. I think, not working is what really the case. Explore the internet. Not at all. He is a legend for us, but we have better T20 batsmen now. So as much as I want him to play, not actually a big deal for us. Who are we talking about there? Tamim Iqbal. Okay, yeah. Can India play with the SG in the UK and England? That's an interesting question. I mean, yeah, it's obviously that we use a Duke's ball in England, SG in India, and Kookaburra in Australia. Yeah. But I mean, India's not going to bowl with the Duke's ball in India. Maybe they could do it like Australia's actually used the Duke's ball in our Sheffield Shield, which allowed our bowlers to get used to that type of delivery or that type of ball. Maybe there's some merit there. Maybe they need to get more exposure to the ball locally and watch them play.
Or other thing, Norman, for white ball, there's only Kookaburra wherever you play in the world. Probably ICC can standardize that now because it's even test is a championship. It is bilateral, but it's a championship. So if they could probably narrow down and standardize one type of ball all over the world, like the white ball Kookaburra.
But then how do you choose the ball?
Well, they can decide which one. ICC decides
Kookaburra,
which
SG
one.
and Duke's, 3 pretty heavy-handed balls, and they've all got history. Kookaburra's been around for well over 100 years. Obviously, Duke's ball has 2, and SG's been around for a fair while as well. So that's the problem. I mean, they're all going to be upset, aren't they?
Yeah, that is
my thoughts. Just leave it the way it is. Allow each country their own ball. It challenges batsmen coming to tour there. If they're going to overcome the challenge, great.
But from that perspective, if you see, Indian bowlers are quite positive about SG ball. They're enjoying it, Bumrah and Shami, they enjoy it. Yeah.
I mean, for God's sake, they got 9 wickets and 8 wickets respectively, and Shami took quite a few in the third match. So they can't be unhappy with the ball, for sure. Absolutely. Have you got any other thoughts, Dinesh, on tomorrow? Any other thoughts that you see? Tell me your lineups. Tell me your Indian lineup. Who would you have?
I would like to see at least 2 changes. As you said, Ashwin for Ishant and Vihari or Sky for Rahane. At least these 2. But Rahane may not be replaced.
But you keep saying Sky. That's a bit of personal favoritism going on there.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. I'll have that influence there.
But
Mike Agarwal in the middle.
The guy was supposed to be playing the first test, and he's not even getting a look in now in your suggestions. It'll have to be, the first choices are Agarwal and/or Vihari. Has to be. They have to give one of those 2 the first go.
And that's what I'm saying. Mayank Agarwal is always been an opener. Making him play at number 5 again. You're getting in a stopgap middle order. So
Yeah. Well,
that's
Vihari's
the
also
only
been an
thing.
opener as well, hasn't
He has opened because of absence of an opener. He in Australia, I think he opened. I think even in England in 2018, and that was the time when KL Rahul was going through a poor patch. So
But Rahul very cleverly has jumped all over the opening position and done well in the first 2 tests. Not that well in the third, but he's done sufficiently well that he's not going anywhere from the opening position. And he may well have played himself into the T20 squad, He may well have played himself into that. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there because obviously Rohit Sharma yet again will be the opener for the T20.
Yeah.
But will they bring? Well, what's happened with Gill? What's the latest on Gill? Is he back? Is he better now?
I think he's already traveled to UAE with KKR. Yeah, I think
Right.
so.
So he's
He'll be
playing
there.
for KKR in the IPL.
Yeah, I think he's traveled. I'm not sure whether he was part because most of the squads have already reached UAE. They're going through the quarantine.
No, but you must. What I'm getting at though, Gill was a part of the Test squad. He was going to open the first match by a country mile with Rohit Sharma, and would have been in the whole Test series had he not injured himself and probably have played all games. So
that's right.
Well, the fact that he's already fit to go over with KKR means he could have been fit to play for the last 2 tests.
No, but whatever treatment he had to come back home. So probably that's the thing. You cannot return back. The condition is on these quarantine. Yeah, that's the only thing. And we still don't know. Even if he's traveled with KKR, is he fit enough? Match fit is not known.
You look at it. Prithvi Shaw before the Australian series was going to open. Then it went to Gill. Then Gill left. It went to Agarwal. Now Agarwal was injured. It went to Rahul. Intriguing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The fourth selection, effectively, in the last 12 months has gone to now probably cement his position.
Yeah, and that's where a little bit we need to be fair on Pujara because he's predominantly coming in very early at number 3. We do talk about the number of balls he's playing, the averages. He's coming in at as an opener. We don't have long opening partnerships until we saw on this tour, and that is where KL Rahul gets the credit for it. So Pujara also we need to balance in those terms at how soon he was coming into the inning.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the fact that Pujara didn't have to go into bat early probably favoured his 91 without a doubt. That would have helped him a long way to go and do that. But okay. So your side is you've got Rahul with Sharma, Pujara, Kohli, and you're saying potentially a replacement for Rahane, potentially. Then Jadeja, Ashwin, and then Bumrah, Siraj, Shami.
And Shami, yeah. But
That's
if Jadeja, if in case Jadeja is not fit, Pant is there. And if Jadeja is not fit, I get in Shardul for Jadeja, Shardul Thakur.
And not forgetting that Shardul was chosen for the first Test match right up front, wasn't he? Ahead of Ishant Sharma, ahead of Ashwin. And he was injured in the second match. That's why Ishant Sharma was given a chance, quite frankly, because it looks as though Shardul may have been selected for the second Test as well. So we might see Thakur play in this 4th Test match. There's a chance we'll see him play. If Jadeja's injured, we might see Ishant Sharma and Jadeja and Ishant Sharma both out, with Ashwin and Thakur coming both in.
Could be, yeah.
Could be. Interesting. Very interesting. All right, Naresh. Thanks for joining us today. You've been given a class dismissed sign. No, but I think it's great. It was good to have David on. Munchie was there earlier as well. Aparna was keen as mustard, but she hasn't come yet. And I don't know what happened to Monty. Also was meant to be here, but that's right. Did you watch Jimmy Maxwell, David, the other day? Did you see any of that?
I saw which you sent me separately. I did see that, yeah.
Yeah, it was great to have those on. I need to work out whether or not I can go. This is interesting because Jim and I were chatting about the match, you would argue live. We weren't showing visuals nor audio, but we were talking about certain deliveries. I don't know whether we can technically do that or not. I've got to find out. I've got to find out from a few people now, because I don't think we're breaking any rules. We're not showing any visuals nor any sound. We just talked about the match. But I don't know whether we need to get permission to do that.
I don't
wouldn't
see
have thought-
any issue. Yeah, I don't see any issue with that. If you're discussing the game, and because there's a lot of live commentary happening on YouTube without the game being shown, but people are talking about it. So I don't see that as an issue.
No, I wouldn't have thought so either. But I had a comment from one channel saying they actually told me to stop, because they said that I was. Well, what they do is they go ball by ball, they show the score, which is a distinct approach to the game, and they're on for the whole 7 hours. Now, I didn't do that. I'm just curious. I need to find out more about this, because I'm just not sure what's going on there, because I don't think I've done anything wrong, but I need to be sure. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Naresh. We'll
Okay,
talk to you the
Norman.
next.
Thank
Definitely
you.
coming pre and post. You're on whenever you want to do. All right.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Norman. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Good night.
Naresh. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was great having Naresh on there. We had obviously David Gravity. We had. I don't know whether you're right, Garrett Baker, saying it's only played by Commonwealth people. Others don't find it interesting. The reality is the spread of Commonwealth countries, India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, West Indies, England, India, Australia, New Zealand, whatever. We're all over the world now, and we're integrating into populations all over the world, more and more. In particular, subcontinent people people in Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, they're all around the world. So they're developing cricket in each country, predominantly from expats or Commonwealth countries. But those people are starting to share, and you'd be surprised how people are starting to take them in other countries. So don't discount them. Norman is back to normal. Hi, Norman. Hello, Vishal, Tenzing, Lama, and Rick Tech. I'm back on form again. You're right. We've had, don't talk ball by ball, talk about everything in between. Yeah, that's what I do anyway, really. We might occasionally, there's a wicket's just fallen, or a new batsman's coming. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, to be honest. I don't think that's ball by ball, but I guess we've got to be careful. All right, guys, how are we going time-wise? We've been on for 2 hours and a quarter of the rest. Tomorrow's game starting tomorrow, of course. Been a lot of great discussion today. I do think India will make changes, but only maybe not as much as people think. Definitely Ashwin is in, that's for sure, and he will probably replace Ishant Sharma. Whether they change today's, it'll be on an injury basis, maybe. And batting-wise, Rahane's under a cloud, but I don't think he's going to be replaced at this point. I think that'll be the same side. With England, of course, they'll definitely be replacing Josh Butler with Bairstow as the keeper and another batter coming in, likely the Ollie Pope at this point. And then the bowling side of things, they will probably bring in Chris Wokes. Whether it's for Sam Curran or another bowler goes will be the question. Of course, we have pRASIDH kRISHNA there in the Indian squad, but I don't think he's going to be playing this match. Maybe the fifth under rotation, we'll see. Anderson looks like he's playing yet again as well. So fairly stable size, guys. I don't think there'll be anything too dramatic in the change at this point in time at all. So let's not suggest that at this point. I think we'll keep the same sides. And the questions I asked earlier, and we'll repeat them now. Should India play extra batter? If they do, it'll be a Vihari or Agarwal, not Sky. Should they replace Rahane? I don't think they will. Kohli doesn't think so either. If they do, it'll be a Vihari as a replacement, I would imagine. Should India bring in Ashwin? Yes, they will. And not only should they will. What about the seam as well? We'll wait to see how Ishant Sharma seems to be out. And if there may be a Bumrah, there may be a Sharmi scare, we're not sure. And if that is the case, we might see this young Krishna come in. But there's also Umesh Yadav as well. So that there is plenty of options there. It's still perplexing why they brought in pRASIDH kRISHNA, unless there was a direct injury to one of the players. That may well be Ishant Sharma. It may well be that he's the one that's injured. And he was already to be replaced by Ashwin, you would imagine. So that was probably going to be the case anyway. So I don't think there are any issues there at all. But of course, England have a new vice captain. Moeen Ali has been promoted to the position of vice captain. meaning that he will play as the spinner without any doubt now. Obviously, with Josh Butler out of the team, with perhaps another batter coming in, Ollie Pope. That may well be the only change to the England side as well. We'll wait and see. I think they're going to make fairly minimal changes. They're not really interchanging both sides, which is a really strong Test cricket style selection process. You should not change the sides unless you really have to because of injury. Form should be based on their entire series, not just the first 2 matches. So I applaud that, and I'm very happy that we're seeing that happen, because that to me is a pretty good indication of pick and stick, as I would call it. And that's what I think you need to do. You need to pick a team and a squad, more so the team, for the entire series. It's been 5 matches, and India have done it so far. They've not changed much. Only real change, well, they had to bring in Rahul to start the series off in place of Agarwal, but otherwise they haven't changed their batting line at all, despite having lost the last match. And they certainly were close to winning both of the first 2 matches, so you'd argue that was a good selection. So and they've left Ashwin out of the first 3 matches, but conditions do suit a spinner, and maybe a tandem bowling of spinners with both Ashwin and Jadeja at either end. Interesting to see what happens there. I think they're both going to be in, and we'll see one less fast bowler, Ishant Sharma, and then more emphasis on Siraj, Bumrah and Sharma and their bowling, which, again, they're a very competent 3 bowlers indeed. There's nothing to be sneezed at with that bowling lineup at all. At all. So pretty happy with that bowling lineup, to be honest. And of course, England, Woakes will come in. I don't really want to see Sam Curran go, but if it's like for like, then that would be the case. Of course, they'd like Ben Stokes in there, wouldn't they? Would you bowl both Ben Stokes and Chris Woakes? Well, they've done that before, haven't they? So that would mean Sam Curran could stay with Chris Woakes. I rather hope they're going to do that. I really do. I hope they do that, because I like to see those 2 players both play, because they both can bat. They absolutely both can bat. There's no doubt about that at all. All right, it's 11:51 p.m. where I am. It makes it 7:22 p.m. in India, and obviously it's some 1:52 p.m. in England. So yeah, that's the current state. Okay, I've got a question here. Don't talk about off topic, but since you were talking about USA cricket and you are quite close to some officials as well, I would like to know what ICC is doing for the globalised cricket. They're doing a lot. They're doing a hell of a lot, especially women's cricket. Immense amount. They're supporting a lot of satellite teams. They're doing a lot, to be really honest with you. They're quite commendable. They really are pushing it. And the Asia Cup, which they support heavily, a lot of the satellite cups that are around the world, they're doing a great deal of work, don't worry. America thinks baseball is better than cricket. Of course they do. Stay live till tomorrow. What do you mean until the morning? No, I can't stay that long. I want off topic. Okay. I already mentioned that one. Yeah, we've got another period of time here. I think we've pretty well had a good session here, guys. Numbers are not huge for this time of the day, but we'll get, obviously, with pre-show tomorrow, which will be on from 6 p.m. Indian time, 6 p.m. Australian time, some 1:30 p.m. Indian time, and around the 9 a.m. time tomorrow morning. Then we'll have a post-match, post-day 1 review, and we'll probably have a lot to talk about there. American 100 time will be very easy for Americans to get. Simple, short, exciting. If they can watch NFL, they can watch 100 minutes. Yeah, let's hope they take up the other forms of cricket first and not just wait for that to be the case. Well, guys, I'm going to start with another 6 minutes. You're looking forward to the next round, which will be the pre-show of the day. Thanks, Rick Tech. Yeah, I do have another video that I uploaded, which was the Moeen Ali video. He talked about his situation being vice captain, which would be an interesting one indeed. Okay. All right, guys. I think if there are no more questions, okay. No Americans are not so high international. They like their own tournaments. True, Garabanka, they do, but the weight of expats in the country, cricket will flourish. When David Warner Smith returned, I thought they had changed, but now considering everything happening with Langer, do you think these seniors have something to do with it? Of course they do. They're right in the middle of it. Narman, Narayan Singh, they're right in the middle of the problem. No doubt. Yeah, Sumit, they are good. Well, they've just beaten Australia and now New Zealand the first match. Of course they're up there. Of course they're doing very well. They could prove up more of a challenge in the series coming up as well. One bad outing and everything is going after it. Don't forget he's the third best average. Yeah, but he didn't look good. New Zealand struggling with spin. They always do. So did Australia. Bangladesh staying in their home ground. Yeah, we're not playing the World Cup there, so it's going to make it difficult for them. You're right. All right, guys. I think it's time to go. So don't forget to view, like, and share the post. Share through your WhatsApp, through your Instagram, through your email services, through word of mouth. Go to my @Norman_Koch, which is my Twitter and my Instagram handle, and Eyes on Cricket with Norman Koch, which is here. Hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the notification button to be made aware of any other sessions. Let's hope they are. Let's go. Let's see them do that. It's almost been in here. Take a rest on it and get a good night. All right, good guys. We'll say goodbye now. All the best. Good night. See you tomorrow for the pre-show and post-show.